Fry wonders aloud if anyone else witnessed the young master's earlier display of power. While Ezel, still processing the memory, admits she could hardly believe her own eyes, and Haffel confirms he looked closer, initially thinking it an illusion, but it was undeniably the young master. Fry then observes the knights training in the courtyard, remarking that it seems the young master has been training incredibly hard recently, far beyond what he thought possible. He ponders the sudden emergence of these new abilities, wondering what could have happened to him to spark such a change. Meanwhile, Aaron Steelguard stands by a window, gazing out at the world beyond, a quiet determination settling over his features. His emerald eyes begin to glow with a vibrant blue light, as he vows to himself that he will make sure to prevent past mistakes. The tragedy won't repeat itself, he thinks. In this life, he will definitely succeed. He stands, bathed in a soft blue glow, a stark reminder of the 2 lives he has lived, both reaching their 19th year. It was at that age, he recalls, that he met his end in his past life, a memory that still echoes with a heavy sigh. From his window, he gazes out, a faint sound of distress escaping him, as the weight of his memories presses down. He remembers a life lived entirely under his grandmother's gentle care, a stark contrast to the harsh realities that followed. Then came the war with the Empire, forcing him to overcome conspiracies and betrayals, a grim struggle etched onto the face of a man who fought for his people. His father, a renowned knight, stood tall, while he himself was merely a third-class knight, unable to reach their level. He looks at the nameplate, a ruined Steelguard, a name that carries the weight of a lineage he once felt unworthy of. Even after becoming a lord, despite his perceived lack of abilities, he lost everything within 3 years, betrayed by the very count he had trusted most, the true traitor of the Steelguard family. He remembers the disgraceful Lord Lazen Steelguard, whose actions led to his downfall, and how he was treated no better than a beggar, scorned by everyone on the streets. Yet, despite all the betrayal and suffering, he knows deep down that everything that happened was ultimately his own fault. He wishes he could have died a hero, or at least a knight, to avoid this fate. In the end, he lost everything, his wealth, his honor, and his very life, betrayed by an enemy he had known since childhood, brought to the brink of death by an assassin lurking in the shadows. Until that day, he had been nothing more than a naive child with a complex personality, and now, after everything that has happened, he finds himself here again, repeating the cycle. Suddenly, a voice echoes in his mind, a desperate plea to stop, as he instinctively reaches out towards a glowing blue leaf, a silent command to silence the intrusive thoughts. He sits up abruptly, his eyes wide with a mixture of confusion and recognition, the ethereal blue leaf still hovering before him. This is the World Tree's leaf, a phenomenon that appears only once every 100 years, a family treasure that grants the ability to see the future, and it shouldn't exist in different dimensions. To think he had lived his entire past life like a blank slate, oblivious to the true nature of things, his past mistakes must be corrected. He demands the leaf, his voice firm with newfound resolve. His hand reaches out, his gaze fixed on the glowing object, a single word escaping his lips, filled with desperate longing. The World Tree's leaf, an ethereal artifact glowing with mystical energy, appears before him, one of many such wonders. Aaron recalls the International Trading Guild's deceit, marveling at the leaf's miraculous appearance, a phenomenon occurring only once every century, and one he alone can perceive. Even with the ability to foresee the future, he remained a mere puppet of the guild, unable to rise again. Yet the legends speak of these leaves as the very eyes of a god, an oracle for prophets, prompting an unseen voice to question his deep contemplation. A healing potion, the voice suggests, as a hand reaches out towards him. "Why are you showing this to me?" he demands, as the voice coldly informs him that its client is no longer interested in playing games. He refuses to be looked down upon, challenging the unseen entity, asking who dared instruct it to treat him with such disdain. A knife gleams in the reaching hand, the voice offering the leaf as his inheritance. His face contorts in fury. They weren't satisfied with the sacrifice of his health and reputation, and now they seek to take his very life. A purple aura flares around him, his determination hardening as he curses the audacity, wondering if the unseen antagonist would truly go so far as to kill him. His bloodied hand trembled, the pain a stark reminder of his failures, as he knew he was finally done. He was probably going to die, and all he could think was, if only he had another chance. A shadowy figure loomed in his mind, a voice echoing the truth about the World Tree's leaf, the eyes of God and a prophet's oracle, a power he hadn't been able to grasp. Even if he couldn't be as great as his father, he had still aspired to be a decent lord, and now, with his life slipping away, he pleaded for just one more chance to correct his mistakes. His eyes, filled with desperation, looked upward as he wished, if only he could turn back time. A moment of silence hung heavy in the air. Then, glowing particles began to swirl around him. With a sudden surge of power, a brilliant blue sword materialized before him, radiating a powerful aura, as a system message declared the final reflection of the World Tree's leaf, and confirmed that the World Tree's leaf would now be granted. A system prompt appears, urging the injured figure to make a final wish. His face, etched with pain, reflects the system's struggle, which reports errors and an inability to find a solution. Despite the glitches, the system proceeds, analyzing the subject's deepest desires with the available data. It quickly identifies a total of 3 wishes, then begins calculating the intensity of each. A significant difference cannot be found between them, leading to the decision that all wishes will be granted. A blinding, cosmic light erupts, engulfing everything. The world dissolves into streaks of pure white energy. Then, as if waking from a dream, Eren opens his eyes, his injuries gone, his appearance subtly changed, a look of utter surprise on his face. He gazes around, bewildered, questioning the very nature of this new place. He gazes out the window at the familiar scenery, a sight he remembers from just a few months ago. Yet, a chilling thought pierces his mind. He was supposed to be dead, tortured by the assassin Kunthis, sent by his own father. A soft voice breaks his reverie, asking if she may enter, and he turns to see Ezel standing at the doorway. He struggles to reconcile the image before him with his memories, recalling her as his personal caretaker from a year ago, as she calls out for the young master. Disbelief washes over him. The familiar face before him shouldn't be here, not now, not like this. Ezel, unaware of his turmoil, innocently asks his age, confirming his past self. The weight of the situation crushes him, leaving him unable to comprehend or believe what is happening. Overwhelmed by the impossible truth, he collapses to the floor, Ezel crying out his name in alarm as she rushes to his side. Lying on the ground, he looks up at the tearful Ezel, the reality of her presence undeniable, as she weeps beside him. Eren, still reeling from the impossible reality of his situation, silently acknowledges that perhaps his previous words were ill-chosen, a sentiment he had often felt in his past life, even when expressing gratitude. Meanwhile, Ezel, witnessing his strange behavior, can only stare in wide-eyed confusion, wondering if this was merely a new, more subtle form of harassment from her young master. Her fear palpable, she quickly bows, apologizing profusely and begging him to tell her if she had done anything wrong, knowing that any mistake could lead to severe punishment and make him uncomfortable. Eren quickly clarifies that wasn't what he meant, realizing he's still unaccustomed to the nuances of being a noble. A flashback of his past self's harsh words echoes in his mind, recalling how he used to dismiss Ezel with trivial tasks or threaten to throw her out for clumsiness, making him understand why she would react with such fear. Shaking off the memory, he asks Ezel what brings her to his room, recalling that Captain Haffel was extremely furious because he had skipped his training again. Ezel, still confused by his tone, states she will go look for the captain immediately, but then pauses, asking for clarification, as Eren realizes he still hasn't quite gotten his words right. She looks up at him, asking why he's acting so strangely, and if they had done something wrong, to which she receives a simple, hesitant "no, sir" in response. Eren looks out a window, reflecting that he doesn't know what kind of chance this is, but it certainly feels like he's been given a second opportunity. He reflects on the past, on the one who brought ruin to his family, a monstrous figure with no regard for their name. But that person, he declares, is no longer. Only a ruined steel guard, who will dedicate his current life to changing the future, remains. With a resolute thud, he decides it is time to move forward, asking himself if he should head out. A faint smile plays on his lips as he acknowledges the unfortunate loss of his hard-earned muscle, but asserts he has no regrets, while Ezel, watching him depart, asks if he is truly all right. The Steel Guard training ground stood as a testament to enduring strength and discipline. From a distance, Eren's Steel Guard observed the knights, their rigorous training a familiar sight. He wondered if their ferocity remained as sharp as ever. He reflected on his past, acknowledging that he hadn't appreciated it then, and how much he had missed out on in his previous life. Suddenly, a familiar voice broke his reverie, as Captain Haffel, knight of the Steel Guard family, greeted him, noting his arrival. Eren, caught off guard, apologized for his tardiness, admitting it was indeed a little late. The captain, however, dismissed the apology, instead reminding him of a promise and emphasizing the need to work hard to make up for his missed training. Haffel declared he would personally oversee the training, making it clear there would be no time for idleness, to which Eren readily agreed. Eren, now determined, asked if he should begin immediately, while Haffel mused that the young master would surely devise a plan. He considers the possibility of another excuse to avoid his duties, but the version of himself that once sought such escape is no more. Everything is now up to him. As he acknowledges that everything has returned to how it was 17 years ago, the only thing that has truly changed is himself. With this realization, he vows to take matters into his own hands. Since he already knows the future, he declares that he will continue to build up his skills. As Fry observes his determined training, noting that the young master seems much more serious than before. His ultimate goal is to prevent any and all tragedies from happening, protecting his family's legacy. He pushes through his training, counting out his reps, clearly exhausted. This is the first time he's truly pushed himself, feeling worn out, but determined to continue. Reflecting on his weaknesses and the future threats, he believes he can overcome anything by increasing his stats. Suddenly, a system notification appears before him, announcing a new user has been detected. He stares in disbelief at the prompt, asking if he will begin his dimensional training, with options to accept or reject. Eren exclaims in shock at the message, while Fry, noticing his reaction, asks if he is alright. He asks Fry if he can see the floating message, but Fry replies that he sees nothing, wondering what Eren is looking at. A realization dawns on Eren. Could he be the only one who can see this phenomenon? He acknowledges he doesn't understand what is floating before him, but it's clearly not a book or anything familiar. As the mysterious message solidified before him, Aaron found himself faced with a single, glowing prompt: accept. The glowing interface took the form of a book, revealing itself as a dimensional transaction book, a concept he struggled to comprehend. Beside him, Fry's voice cut through the silence, his concern evident as he called out to his young master. Fry continued, questioning Aaron's recent behavior, wondering if he was truly doing well, and mentioning Raphael's name with a hint of worry. A confident smile spread across Aaron's face as he declared he was no longer the person he used to be. Fry continued to plead with him, his expression etched with worry as Aaron looked away, lost in his own thoughts. Aaron's internal monologue confirmed his trust in Haffel, but he still questioned if everything he was experiencing was merely a hallucination. As Aaron gazed at the glowing book, still contemplating its reality, Fry remained by his side, unaware of Ezel observing them quietly from the background. As the morning begins, a loyal attendant greets the young master, offering tea, but his mind is still reeling from the recent ordeal, recalling how he was nearly consumed by unseen forces. Then, a strange sensation draws his attention to his own eyes, where something peculiar is beginning to manifest. A strange blue flame flickers within them, leaving him to wonder if he's truly seeing a blue flame in his own gaze. A shocking thought crosses his mind. Could the dimensional transaction book have somehow integrated itself into his very eyes? Despite the strangeness, he feels an indomitable power, devoid of anything spooky, and recalling a maid's past question about him being a knight, he understands it must be mana, a real force, making him feel like he's finally on the verge of something. He senses he's about to break free, a profound shift occurring within him. The full realization hits him. Everything has been happening inside his eyes all along. Now that he considers it, the situation makes even less sense than his return 17 years ago, yet a sigh of relief escapes him. It's a profound relief that the head chamberlain hasn't discovered his secret. A sharp, electronic alarm blares, startling Aaron as a system message appears before him. He observes the glowing book, its pages displaying his account name, Arun Steelguard, along with 0 coins, level, and experience, but he can't help but wonder why there isn't a buy option available. As a new window asks if he remembers why he was born into this world, the system declares itself autocomplete, leaving him with the distinct feeling of being forced into something beyond his control. With a surge of ethereal energy, the words "dimensional trading will now begin" flash across his vision, confirming his user ID, 0 balance, and current location within System A, with 999 left to trade. He processes the information, a blue glow emanating from his eye, resigning himself to the fact that he's starting from level 0. A sigh escapes him, his frustration evident, as he laments the system's demanding nature and his inability to even influence the trading process. His mind races, questioning the origin of his coins and whether his account reset from his previous life, only to find his trading history doesn't align, leaving him utterly confused by the discrepancies. The blue energy around his eye pulses softly as he tries to make sense of the overwhelming situation. With a determined glint in his glowing blue eye, he declares, "All right then, I'll start off by warming up." Aaron, with a determined glint in his eye, asks if he could spar with the knight. 1 week later, Fry, the knight, looks back with a hint of surprise, questioning if the young master's request was serious. Aaron confirms his intent with an enthusiastic "yeah." Fry, attempting to be kind yet subtly provoking, offers to go easy, promising to use only his left hand and even close his eyes, a gesture Aaron acknowledges with a knowing chuckle. As the sparring begins, Fry expresses his internal conflict, feeling his pride hurt by holding back against the young master, but a voice urges him to disregard the captain's thoughts and go all out, the sound of a weapon clanking echoing in the air. With a decisive declaration, Fry prepares to strike, a swift whoosh accompanying his movement. But before Fry can land his blow, Aaron moves with impossible speed, a brilliant blue aura flaring around him as he executes a counterattack, leaving Fry utterly bewildered by the sudden, overwhelming force. Fry's eyes widen in shock, his earlier intention to go easy completely forgotten, as he realizes Aaron's sword skills are far beyond anything he could have imagined. Rain begins to fall, mirroring the turmoil in Fry's mind, as he stares at Aaron, questioning if this truly is the young master he has always known. A heavy thud echoes as something unseen plummets from the sky, drawing the attention of a bearded man who insists he saw it fall, while Aaron Steelguard questions how such a thing could be. He considers the implications, muttering about the possibility of it all, but warns himself not to get carried away. The bearded man, still in disbelief, exclaims his astonishment, asking if the young master truly is a star. A wave of relief washes over him, thankful that everything is just as it was before. With a soft click, he gazes upon a treasure chest overflowing with gold, lamenting that he cannot use any of it yet, but resolves to put it to good use. As his hand reaches in and picks up a coin, a soft beep sounds, and a glowing interface appears, revealing that the only way to use coins is through the coin transaction system. He scans the options, noting that the most urgent deal available is currency exchange. The system's currency exchange interface materializes, displaying a glowing, ethereal hourglass. As he holds a single coin, a new window appears, detailing the conversion rates. 1 silver coin equals 100 copper, 1 gold coin equals 100 silver, and 1 platinum coin equals 100 gold. He realizes the true value of his find, far exceeding his initial estimate, as the system confirms the exchange of his coins into 25 gold. The system insists on this exchange, making it impossible to use the coins for anything else, leading him to conclude that having more gold is always better, even if the prices for items within the system are astronomically high, with the cheapest item still costing 100 gold. He muses that building results and ratings in this System 0 world, or any world, seems impossible for high-performing hunters without sufficient resources. Desperate to find a way to acquire more gold, he spots an entry for mana crystal, realizing it's exactly what he needs. Suddenly, a chat window pops up, titled, "This is a chatting room with Mr. Hearthstone," displaying messages about selling mana crystals. He stares, bewildered, at the screen, wondering if the Hearthstone in the chat room is the same person selling the mana crystals, and whether he should click to engage. He focuses on the system interface, where information about mana crystals appears. Noting the transaction window, and deciding to check the details first, observing the seller's profile, Hearthstone, and wondering about the price, as the system indicates a 5% charge for private room trades. A moment of contemplation passes as he sees the price, 100 gold per low-grade mana crystal, plus the 5% system charge. If this information is accurate, he realizes the seller is charging an exorbitant price, internally cursing Ernest Hearthstone for selling system items at such a markup. Despite his frustration, he decides to proceed with a purchase, opting to buy just one for now. Understanding the inflated price isn't the exchange center's fault, but the system's, he proposes a direct transaction to avoid the system's cut. A cloaked figure, presumably Hearthstone, responds with a cheerful "oh my" and declines the direct offer, remarking on his quick personality. Aaron explains his reasoning, stating that the high cost of mana bags has been a burden, making store prices insane, and reiterates his desire to buy directly and discuss a deal, as the chatting room with Mr. Hearthstone is processed and opened. He questions the half-price offer, wondering if it's a system quirk, while Hearthstone suggests it might be due to his own influence. Confirming the transaction, Hearthstone announces the trade has concluded, with Aaron receiving 100 mana crystals for 5,000 gold. As the glowing mana crystals appear, Aaron observes them, understanding the transaction process. Hearthstone expresses his satisfaction, and Aaron accepts the trade, finalizing the exchange. However, Hearthstone then reveals the system's 5% fee, explaining that he only received 4,750 gold and asks Aaron to return the 250 gold difference. Taken aback, Aaron questions the concept of cash back as he sees the system notification. Hearthstone, equally surprised, points to a system notice indicating a cash back adjustment, where Aaron receives 3 coins. Aaron wonders if Hearthstone is a VIP he's unaware of, while Hearthstone dismisses the idea, and Aaron then considers absorbing the mana crystal. Hearthstone exclaims about the system giving him cash back, while Aaron, holding a mana crystal, observes that the system itself seems to be getting absorbed by the crystal. To truly master the Steel Guard's vision, the breath of steel, one must diligently practice Grandpa's improved explosive mana breathing method, requiring both a strong body and an abundance of mana. For someone who hadn't met these conditions, it seemed impossible, yet the former method involved rigorous training and effort. There were 2 paths to fulfilling these requirements, the latter being the use of the mana crystal absorption skill from the transaction book, while the former involved relentless sword training, which Aaron was currently undertaking, observed by Hearthstone. Hearthstone, recognizing the young master's rapid progress, wondered if Aaron possessed the same innate power he had seen before. Aaron, determined to prove himself, resolved to showcase his power once again. He then challenged Mihail to a spar, catching the man off guard. Aaron confirmed his challenge, stating Mihail was the perfect opponent to demonstrate his abilities. As the conversation continued, Mihail began to outline the terms of their spar. Meanwhile, Ezel, the eldest daughter of Levadon Steelguard, watched with growing concern, her voice filled with worry for the young master. Even as she voiced her fears that the young master was still too reckless, Captain Haffel acknowledged her apprehension, understanding her worries. Back in the courtyard, Mihail clarified the terms, suggesting a back to spar if the use of mana was too dangerous. Aaron confirmed his understanding of a back to fight as a direct confrontation, and Mihail readily agreed, signaling the start of their contest. From a distance, Haffel noted Mihail's rank as a 5th-class knight, while Fry expressed surprise at the young master's ability to push him back. Haffel questioned the choice of a back to fight, given its nature, and Fry, initially expecting Mihail to win, suddenly exclaimed in disbelief at the unexpected turn of events. Mihail's face contorted in shock, as he found himself unexpectedly forced backward, Fry's voice echoing his disbelief. With a powerful cry, Aaron unleashed a swift, impactful strike, his blade connecting with a resounding force. With a powerful mid-air strike, Aaron's blade connects, sending a resounding impact through the air. Mihail recoils, his face a mask of disbelief, unable to comprehend how the supposedly weak young master could possess such strength. As Aaron lands gracefully, his opponent is still reeling, the force of the blow leaving him disoriented. The onlookers gasp in unison, their voices echoing the undeniable truth: Mihail has lost. A wave of cheers erupts from the crowd, hailing the young master's unexpected victory. He stands tall and confident, basking in the newfound respect of those who once doubted him. A gentle touch graces his cheek, a silent acknowledgement from his sister. Her voice, filled with emotion, confesses her pride, admitting she had underestimated her little brother all this time. Looking into her eyes, he thinks of her, his sister, who has always been there for him. Ezel, the eldest daughter of the Levedon Steelguard family, stands in a grand hall. Her younger brother, Aruin, was always considered a genius, destined for greatness, while Mihail, despite his Steelguard blood, was only deemed fit to be a knight. The breath of the steel is the very essence of their family, a power passed down exclusively to women, who would then marry into other noble houses. Because of this ancient rule, Ezel, despite her birthright, was never granted the breath of the steel, leading her to question if it was her fault. She understood the immense pressure and criticism her family endured daily because of this. Later, Aruin confronts Ezel, asserting that she possesses the true essence of their blood and is undeniably a Steelguard. Overwhelmed, Ezel apologizes, admitting she had no idea of the burden he carried. Aruin looks on, his expression resolute. He feels a little bad, realizing that from the beginning, his plan was actually for his new self. In a memory, he recalls a time with Ezel, thinking of a plan to secure her acceptance, even as he remembers a person who possessed deep insight and virtue. She was the first to truly recognize and accept him, a thought that lingers as he considers his own transformation. Although his prediction was right, he feels his conscience slowly growing numb, a chilling realization that everything he does must serve a greater purpose. This is the only way, he tells himself, for the premium purpose, a conviction that hardens his resolve. That night, at dinner, he observes the assembled family and guests, content with today's specialty menu. His gaze sweeps over the faces around the table, including Ezel, Haffel, Fry, Ernest, and Mihail, as he recalls a prediction from the future. The question echoes in his mind. Who will be the next lord? He watches Ezel, who sits across from him, as he reflects on his recent victory, thinking that if he had known beating a knight in training would garner such attention, he would have done it sooner. Meanwhile, Haffel remarks to Fry that he heard about the young master's feat from the knight training grounds, to which Fry enthusiastically confirms that it truly worked. A small smile plays on his lips as he realizes he has finally piqued his father's interest, a chance he cannot afford to lose. He muses to himself that he still lacks much, having only used a light wooden sword for sparring. Ernest Heartstone, speaking to Mihail, confirms that he heard the young master is a 6th-class apprentice. Kieran Steelguard, Levadon's eldest son, adds that it wasn't even a real sword match. Ezel, looking at him with concern, asks if he isn't worried, to which he simply replies, "That little?" She then states that he is only a 5th class as of now, and he confirms that it is officially a 5th class, prompting her to acknowledge that it's impressive. He then reveals that this is the first time he has gone all out since coming to this world, and Ezel, surprised, asks if he means he was holding back. He confirms, stating there's a reason he's determined to become the Lord. Having shed his previous anxieties, Aaron now feels a newfound clarity, his worries finally shaken away. He takes Ezel's hand, explaining that his change in perspective comes from turning 16. As their hands meet, a surge of energy passes between them, a silent acknowledgement of a battle handshake, an ancient act of mana exchange used to gauge strength in a battle of wills. Aaron's eyes widen slightly, wondering if this unexpected exchange is some kind of test. Ezel, observing his reaction, simply notes his significant improvement, acknowledging how much he has grown. He feels the weight of the mana in his joint, a tangible force that, while different, is not unbelievable, and he muses that he might even surpass the young Master Steelguard himself. A thoughtful expression crosses Aaron's face as he considers the implications, realizing that the youngest has received no particular attention. He internally acknowledges his current capabilities, then considers the academy, wondering if there's anything Ezel might want to ask of him regarding his entry. His eyes glow with a subtle determination, as he realizes that if that's the case, he already has something specific in mind. Aaron, still processing his newfound clarity, hesitates for a moment, wondering if he is truly capable enough to achieve his ambitions. But then, with a confident smile, he reassures his companions, inviting them to share their concerns, promising to listen to their every request. Addressing Haffel directly, he admits to not knowing all the intricate details, yet asserts his understanding of people's feelings, swearing on his name to uphold his word. His gaze firm, he declares his unwavering commitment to becoming a competent merchant and, ultimately, a lord. He challenges them, his voice filled with conviction, asking if they don't agree that this is his deepest desire. Haffel, however, reacts with explosive anger, denouncing the idea as ridiculous and questioning if the young master has lost his mind. As Haffel, Fry, and Mihail turn to leave, the captain sternly reminds him that he cannot break the long-standing family tradition. Haffel continues his furious protest, insisting that only a direct family member can access the secret storage and demanding an explanation for Aaron's remarkable claims. Aaron, undeterred, confirms his statement, asserting that control over the secret storage indeed lies solely within the family. Aaron reflects on a time when he accepted things without hesitation, but now, he feels a distinct difference, prompting Haffel to question if he intends to break their family's long-standing traditions. Eren, with unwavering resolve, declares that from this point forward, he will be the one to control the secret storage, leaving Haffel utterly confused by his words. A frustrated groan escapes Haffel as he struggles to comprehend Eren's audacity, wondering how this bastard could even consider going to a place that was forbidden even to him, the eldest son. Eren, unfazed by Haffel's distress, simply asks what's wrong, then dismisses the family tradition entirely, asserting his claim to the lordship and everything he believes is rightfully his. His eyes gleam with triumph, a silent exclamation of finally having what he desires within his grasp. The object of his desire is the Dimensional Transaction Book, renowned as the strongest magic book, and to truly obtain it, he understands he must be the sole individual capable of controlling it. He recalls his past life on Earth number 1342, a time spent with his grandfather Leiskin, a stark contrast to his current existence. This life is profoundly different from his past, where he merely discovered the dimensional transaction, but now, he possesses a deeper understanding. In this current life, he can perceive it with his own eyes, realizing that the book itself wasn't the key to the secret storage, but rather the ultimate power that was his father's wish. He thinks of the Dimensional Transaction Book, a powerful artifact he intends to monopolize entirely for himself. It was definitely here, he muses, recalling its exact location. No one else can possess it, he vows, his gaze hardening with resolve, knowing he must eliminate its original owner. The Dimensional Transaction Book, a relic of immense power, flashes through his mind. A memory surfaces, of a younger Eren standing before his father, who asks if he is being particular, to which the boy confidently replies, "Yes, father." He recalls holding a glowing object, wondering if this was the hero's reward he had always dreamed of. The Levedon Steelguard Award, a towering golden trophy, stood as a symbol of immense value, rumored to be the most precious possession of the Steelguard family, its acquisition granting the holder the right to become the next lord. Eren Steelguard, however, saw it as nothing more than a fleeting gain, convinced that others were blinded by its superficial allure. Mihail's voice cut through his thoughts, questioning why he would only come to Vigo for gold, and Eren realized he knew exactly what the other man was thinking. The award, indeed, was the most valuable possession of the Steelguard family, and with it, Eren could even become the lord. Yet, Eren believed himself to be different from others who sought such power, convinced he was not like that one guy who would be swayed by it. He knew, however, that he couldn't afford to waste any more time on this matter, his gaze firm as he considered his next move. Mihail, observing his resolve, simply remarked, "You're really a mystery." Eren, surprised by the comment, seemed to concede, as if giving in to the unspoken understanding between them. Just moments ago, something significant occurred within the secret storage. Eren's eyes widen in disbelief, a sharp gasp escaping him. His mind races, considering the implications of the other person's actions, as he frantically searches for the missing item, a growing panic setting in as he realizes it's truly gone. The stark reality hits him, it's gone. He forces himself to calm down, needing to think clearly. There are only two possibilities for the Dimensional Transaction Box's disappearance. Either it was moved without his knowledge, or someone is currently using it. The second possibility, that someone is actively using the box, is the one that can be verified immediately. He dismisses the idea of it being moved, narrowing his focus to the next head of the Lord, knowing that for now, he has no other way to retrieve the Dimensional Transaction Box. With a determined gaze, he can only assume that the box hasn't been passed on to anyone else. Eren sits at his desk, reflecting on the recent acquisition of the Hero's Award, noting its unexpected profitability. Suddenly, a holographic system window materializes before him, detailing a sight of providence, making him question if this newfound ability truly belongs to him, just as another message flashes, announcing an astronomical level up. The system continues to explain that he has discovered new abilities, which will be fully applied once he registers them. His expression shifts to utter disbelief as he recalls the ancient nature of the ability, wondering if he is indeed the Mr. mentioned and questioning the sanity of the entire situation. His eyes widen further, and faint blue lines begin to glow across his forehead, reflecting the immense surge of power within him. He attempts to interact with a VIP inventory system window, but realizes he cannot access it, a wave of concern washing over him at the thought of this crucial feature remaining locked. His emerald eyes flare with an intense, vibrant blue light, a clear and undeniable manifestation of the power now coursing through him. Another system window appears, detailing a daily attendance check and listing several abilities at EX Max or S Max, including Inventory Expansion and Eye of Providence, leaving him only able to utter a disbelieving "no way." His face is consumed by shock, his glowing blue eyes wide with astonishment, as he struggles to comprehend the system's declaration that his level is max leveled, finding the entire situation utterly insane and beyond explanation. Eren Steelguard, his eyes glowing with an ethereal blue light, processes the system's confirmation that he has indeed become an awakener, a fact he struggles to fully grasp. A sudden chime signals a new message, informing him of a 20% commission fee for registering his ancient ability, a requirement for its full application. The system reiterates the 20% charge, emphasizing that ancient abilities must be registered for their full power to manifest, a process that applies to all past time. His eyes widen in disbelief as another chime rings out, the sheer cost of it all hitting him. However, the system quickly offers a direct adjustment, promising a 50% cashback on the coins he invested, resulting in a return of 5 coins. Holding a glowing blue book, Aaron reads a final message, learning that the 10 coins he received were also a gesture of thanks from the president. A small, winged figure, a visual representation of the system, giggles with delight, seemingly amused by the transaction. The figure then prompts him, indicating the next step. With a newfound resolve hardening his gaze, Aaron declares that it is now time for his revenge. Aaron considers his next move, realizing he needs to acquire ammunition for his journey, and decides the first step is to sell off some items. Confirming the system's prompt, he firmly states his intention to sell all his current items. As the system confirms the successful transaction, he plans to use the newly acquired funds to purchase a powerful new skill. A notification appears, informing him that 40 coins have been converted to 400 gold, a substantial sum he readily accepts. Later, relaxing on a bed, he acknowledges the slight annoyance of the process but accepts the deal as beneficial. He stretches out, finding comfort in his surroundings, a rare moment of peace amidst his growing ambitions. His eyes glow with a faint emerald light as he marvels at the ability to conduct dimensional trading while simply lying down, attributing this incredible convenience to the dimensional transaction book that has manifested within his eye. Sitting up, a blue aura emanates from his hand as he confirms his realization. The source of his power is indeed the dimensional transaction book, now residing within his eye. His gaze sharpens, the emerald glow intensifying, as he fully comprehends the true nature of the artifact he now possesses. He muses on the convenience of his new ability, realizing he no longer has to worry about the mundane aspects of acquiring resources. A system message confirms the transaction is complete, the item having sold out almost instantly, leaving him to ponder his next move. Perhaps mana crystals, he considers, a valuable resource for any aspiring mage or adventurer. His eye glows faintly, a subtle manifestation of the dimensional transaction book now residing within him. As he interacts with the holographic interface, he realizes that finding a seller for his desired items is surprisingly easy. Suddenly, an unexpected message appears on his screen, a direct address from an unknown party. In this world, even the most ordinary errand boys and restaurant workers possess strength comparable to knights. A voice questions, wondering what someone intends to do, and why they're speaking in such a disgusting manner. Suddenly, a system message flashes, declaring the user unrecognized and access denied, politely stating, "I'm sorry, but I can't let you do that." The young man, whose eyes glow with a faint red light, reacts with confusion, muttering, "Why all of a sudden?" He then ponders the requirements for obtaining privileges, admitting there's only one thing he can think of, though he remains unsure. With a surge of power, Aaron activates the Eye of Providence, his emerald eyes flaring with an intense red glow as the system confirms the unlock of new privileges. A moment of silence hangs in the air as he processes the sudden influx of information. He questions the very nature of this new ability, wondering what the Eye of Providence truly is and the purpose of this mysterious system. The system responds, confirming that his privileges are now fully unlocked and that rewards are awaiting him. But his excitement quickly turns to confusion as the system displays no events despite the promise of rewards. A list of items appears, overwhelming him with its sheer volume, making him wonder about their purpose. Meanwhile, an older, formally dressed man observes the situation, expressing his thoughts aloud. He finds the entire scenario peculiar, noting that even with a special sale event, the discounts on the exchange center's market price would still be considerably expensive. Aaron, still with glowing red eyes, realizes the irony of his situation, as his max-level privileges render the free transaction fee completely useless to him. Aaron, still processing the system's revelations, notes the absence of any special event or reward, despite his max-level skills and privileges. He had anticipated some form of support or a grand reward, but even a simple, inexpensive event was nowhere to be found, leaving him with a growing sense of frustration. However, realizing he was gaining martial arts skills in this new world, he decides to allocate his skill points, his eyes glowing with a fierce red light, as he grasps a shimmering red orb of energy. As the red energy surges from his chest, a powerful sound echoes, the system confirming that his heart will be directly affected by the absorption. The side effects of the absorption rapidly diminish by 90%, while its speed skyrockets by 300%, culminating in a swift and complete integration of the new power. With the process complete, Aaron's glowing red eyes narrow in thought, a new question arising. How exactly would he utilize martial arts in this unfamiliar world? He holds a glowing blue orb, a visual representation of the answer, as the system reveals that martial arts in this world are fueled by internal energy. This means the system's martial arts also rely on internal energy, implying that he would have to dedicate his entire life to rigorous training to master them. Meditating amidst swirling blue energy, he acknowledges the undeniable truth. He would have to personally cultivate martial arts, a system of internal energy that uniquely recognized him. The system's explanation continued, detailing a sword technique from the martial art world, which, unlike other abilities, did not draw upon the force of nature as its fundamental basis. Instead, martial arts relied on mana in a more natural, refined state. This internal energy, a concentrated and pure essence of mana within the body, was distinct from the force of nature, but comparable to the mana found in the spirit world. Such a skill, therefore, demanded a more refined approach to energy manipulation. As the understanding settled within him, Aaron's eyes flared with a crimson glow, a surge of power momentarily engulfing him. Aaron finds himself in the domain of the interdimensional exchange merchant, Muhyojo, a shadowy figure who greets him with an unsettlingly wide smile and glowing red eyes, declaring his love for customers. The merchant's voice echoes, observing him as merely another living being, another piece of meat, and noting how long it has been since his last customer. He quickly adds that he feels unpleasant, but assures Aaron not to misunderstand, reiterating his long wait for a customer. Aaron, his face partially obscured by bandages and one eye glowing with a faint red light, internally sighs at encountering another bad customer. A holographic display materializes, confirming the merchant's identity as Yum Hyojeo, a human with a transaction level of 1, offering securely welcomed warriors. The merchant lets out a chilling chuckle, musing that he should be thankful to a higher power for this encounter, as a soft beep confirms the transaction. On the ground, a small pool of blood glows faintly, while a narration box notes the presence of many types of martial arts within this fort, followed by the merchant's voice, expressing disappointment at the lack of variety in Aaron's sword techniques. Aaron's glowing eye focuses, finally spotting what he needs, though he admits to himself that he can never quite get used to this unique method of trading. The merchant, Muhyojo, specializes in selling random, cheap martial arts skills at exorbitant prices. The explanation continues, detailing a 3-part sword technique, described as unparalleled and capable of making its master the strongest martial artist in the world. However, this immense power comes with a strict 3-year time limit for mastery, a challenge that few could hope to overcome. The thought of such a demanding path hangs heavy in the air, as the concept of failure looms over any who would attempt it. Aaron considers the implications, realizing that even with the merchant's help, the cost of such power is truly exorbitant. The shadowy merchant, Muhyojo, then offers a further proposition, suggesting he could provide additional tips and advice for a small consulting fee. Aaron, resigned to the merchant's ways, simply agrees to the terms. Deep within the 5th Miram world, the Bamboo Mountain sect stood, its leader now urgently summoned. As the call echoed through the grand halls, a sense of urgency permeated the air, demanding to know what had transpired. Juzong Ha, the sect leader, listened intently, his brow furrowed as he questioned if they had truly located the elusive Hanchiok Li. The news concerned Juzong Ha, the sect leader of the Bamboo Mountain sect. He pressed for details, demanding to know the source of such critical information. The Bamboo Mountain sect's 2nd Divisional Trade Manager relayed the message, confirming the information's validity with a cautious tone. Meanwhile, Muhyojo, his eyes glowing with an intense red light, expressed frustration at the barrage of questions, stating he couldn't answer them all at once. He reminded them of his service, expecting a suitable reward for dealing with their enemy. The trade manager, still processing the information, questions how they are supposed to pay for intelligence that merely confirms what they already knew, wondering if the source was a scammer. But before he can continue, Aaron Steelguard interjects, his eyes flaring with a fierce red glow, declaring that if the trade manager cannot pay, then the Bamboo Mountain sect's enemy is not his, and he will simply deal with Hanchiok Li himself. The trade manager, taken aback by the outburst, demands to know if he was called merely to be mocked. Aaron confirms this with a sharp gaze, his eyes still glowing, then challenges them, asking how mere low-rank fodder could possibly know about the Bamboo Mountain sect's secret Yellow Dragon book. The trade manager ponders this new revelation, wondering if Hanchiok Li is involved in something far more significant, while Aaron internally dismisses his slow-wittedness, having already received 200 coins from the sect leader for the information. He exhales a plume of smoke, a silent question hanging in the air. Will this be enough? His eyes flash crimson as he processes the information, a wave of surprise washing over him at the sheer magnitude of the sum, far more than he had anticipated. He recalls the initial offer, a mere 20 coins he'd lost to Muhyojo, a sum he'd only sought to reclaim, confident that Hanchiok Li would never uncover his involvement. For Muhyojo, however, those 20 gold coins marked a pivotal turning point in his destiny. Aaron's gaze hardens, his voice a low warning, promising severe consequences for any attempt at deception, yet offering an even greater reward for the capture of Hanchiok Li. A document reveals Muhyojo's alias and the Bamboo Mountain sect's cooperation, confirming his identity was deliberately concealed. He muses on the paltry sum he lost compared to Muhyojo's windfall, his heart pounding with the desire to return to his system. A system prompt appears, questioning if Seokyun is the greatest master of martial arts, reflecting his own overwhelming stress and confusion about his path. His eyes glow with renewed resolve as he declares he has met the individual seeking the Yellow Dragon book, the greatest master of the Steelguard family, and he will find him. A faint, ethereal glow emanates from a hand, as a voice echoes the command to kill Seokyun, a sentiment that, despite the system not being of this world, does nothing to lessen the deep-seated grudge against him. Holding a glowing red lantern, Aaron Steelguard's resolve hardens as a system notification confirms Seokyun has acquired the Yellow Dragon book, and he vows to personally return it to him. Meanwhile, a system window reveals the details of Seakin, a human from System 1, connected to the fifth Murim world, who has translated and acquired numerous martial arts techniques, while also noting that Mu Hyojio's dealings don't always bring good things. His current coin count and market report are also displayed. The system further explains that martial arts techniques are often stolen and sold at exorbitant prices, leading to significant profits for those who come from System 1, and warns of caution when dealing with them. Aaron Steelguard, observing the system's information, questions who would even consider buying such a lonely sword technique, dismissing it as overvalued. Seakin, standing before the shadowy figure of Mu Hyojio, muses that someone like the Bamboo Mountain trade manager frequently visits him, then grumbles about the cheap bastard and wonders if he'll sell for the same amount. Seakin, still engaged in his illicit trade, demands his conversational partners speak about themselves. He then dismisses the idea of discussing his own past, declaring it rude to even mention the bastard he was associated with, and warns his interlocutor against overstepping their bounds. Aaron Steelguard, however, cuts through the pleasantries, apologizing for his directness before asking to see some of Seakin's martial arts techniques, having heard of his rare acquisitions. Seakin considers the request for sword techniques, deciding it would be a good idea to showcase one. He then presents a technique, which Aaron acknowledges as great, prompting Seakin to immediately inquire about its price. Aaron, however, offers the technique on the house, proposing to give Seakin 35 coins for it, a sum he clearly finds insulting. Seakin, unfazed by Aaron's offer, nonchalantly explains his pricing, stating that he will only provide the one-star technique for 35 coins, as Aaron is currently unable to afford it, while Aaron's eyes begin to glow with a furious red light. Aaron, his patience clearly exhausted, demands to know why Seakin isn't responding, then vows to get his money back, insisting on an immediate transaction for all 35 coins. Seakin, surprised by Aaron's sudden intensity, remarks on his wealth and keen eye for martial arts techniques, then asks what he is truly looking for. Seakin, still reeling from the unexpected demand, tries to maintain his composure, suggesting that if Aaron is not here for business, he should leave. Aaron, however, simply states that he thinks they'll be meeting often. A scoff escapes Seakin, who realizes Aaron is likely referring to the martial arts techniques he's been selling. He then dismisses Aaron, declaring that a customer like him is unwelcome, and asks how he would feel about becoming friends instead. Aaron, his eyes now glowing with an intense red light, acknowledges the system message confirming his killing intent skill has been activated, and with a chilling smile, he tells Seakin to laugh while he still can. The sheer force of Aaron's killing intent causes Seakin to recoil, a visible tremor running through him, as he barely manages to utter Aaron's name in shock. Later, back in his opulent chambers, Aaron's eyes still glow with a faint red hue, as he hears a voice call out to him. A maid approaches him, politely excusing herself, and addresses him as young master. Aaron, startled by the interruption, quickly suppresses his aura, muttering an exasperated "oh shit." He reflects on his lack of control, realizing his killing intent had been leaking out, and that he couldn't contain it after his encounter with Seakin. Aaron's smile is forced, a casual dismissal of the recent confrontation, as he reassures an unseen presence. "I'm sorry, it's not your fault." A hollow laugh escapes him as he tries to convince himself, and perhaps others, that his condition has improved, attributing his earlier display of power to a mere illness. Just then, a young maid, Ezel, approaches him, expressing relief at his supposed recovery. But a sudden realization washes over him, a growing sense of unease. He acknowledges the troublesome truth: his aura, his raw power, is leaking uncontrollably, a force he cannot yet master despite his inherent potential. Ezel hesitantly addresses him, and he attempts to project an air of calm, inviting her to speak freely. He tries to steer the conversation towards his older brother, perhaps to distract from his internal struggle. A sharp intake of breath, a sudden understanding dawning on him. Ezel gasps, her fear palpable, confirming his suspicion. His uncontrolled aura is still affecting those around him, even his own household staff. The morning sun illuminates a vast training ground, where Maki stands, facing another young man. As the blonde-haired youth turns, he addresses Maki, calling him older brother. His voice sharp with irritation, he demands to know when he was given permission to speak, while Maki, looking annoyed, retorts that he came to train, not to endure lectures. The blonde youth's face contorts in disbelief and anger, exclaiming, "Are you crazy?" He lunges forward, grabbing Maki by the collar and dismissing his abilities, while Maki, surprised, tries to explain his efforts. With a determined expression, the blonde youth declares, "I have to teach you a lesson first." Reflecting on Maki's perceived favoritism, he challenges him directly. "Take a hit, you brat." Aaron stands over Maki, who lies on the ground, clearly in pain, as a thought crosses his mind about the consequences of his actions. Looking down at him, he dismisses his struggle, calling him a ruin, and stating he is merely asking to be beaten. Maki's eyes glow with a fierce light, as he warns his opponent not to get full of himself. But the warning comes too late, as Maki is sent flying backward through the air with a heavy impact. He slides across the ground, the sheer force of the impact carrying him further. Aaron watches, seemingly unfazed by his own brutality. Yet, Maki suddenly surges forward, a powerful aura flaring around him as he delivers a devastating kick that sends Eren reeling. Eren recoils, his expression shifting to one of disbelief and confusion, questioning the source of this unexpected strength from a mere 8th-class mage. Maki, now on his feet, declares his intent to fight without restraint, while Eren grapples with his momentary lapse in judgment, wondering if he let his guard down. The true beginning of the warrior's path, a basic requirement for any high-class knight, was upon them, yet Eren could only stare in disbelief, wondering why Maki was acting so crazily. Despite the overwhelming force, he reminded himself that he was still a high-class knight, and he couldn't afford to lose here. The sheer intensity of Maki's assault made him exclaim, "This is going overboard." With a determined glint in his eyes, Eren decided to seize the opportunity to teach Maki a proper lesson. He launched himself forward, attacking with full force, a heavy impact echoing as he descended. But Eren gasped in surprise, recoiling as he realized he had no choice but to use his own skills, Maki having turned the tables. Maki, now surrounded by a vibrant blue aura, unleashed a devastating stone destruction punch. The powerful blow connected with a thunderous crash, sending a shockwave through the air. Eren's eyes widened in pure shock and pain, uttering, "W, what the hell is going on?" A guttural cry escapes Eren as the full force of the blow sends him reeling, blue energy erupting around him. He flies backward through the air, a blue trail marking his trajectory towards the grand building behind him. His face contorts in utter shock, unable to comprehend the power that just struck him. Now sprawled on the ground, he stares up at Maki, demanding to know how he could have possibly become so strong. Maki simply looks down at his brother, calmly stating that he might have overestimated him this time. Still reeling from the impact, Eren questions if this power comes from the outer story, desperate for an explanation. Maki dismisses the outer story as the source, revealing instead that it's about a secret technique, and implying Eren should already know, as he was the only other person to enter the secret dimension with their father. Eren's eyes widen in disbelief, protesting that he has never entered any secret dimension and demanding to know what Maki is talking about. A chilling realization dawns on him. His father must have kept the secret dimension from him, choosing to share it with Maki instead. Even if he couldn't become as great as his father, he still aspired to be at least a decent lord, but now, everything they said about him feels true. The path he once envisioned, the one his father had supposedly walked, was a secret dimension he knew nothing about. A young maid approaches him, her voice soft as she addresses him, "Young master?" He turns to her, his expression still troubled, acknowledging that his strength had indeed increased. The maid nods, understanding, and assures him that it's all right, as she's always nearby. He then asks her if she's heard anything about the inner storage, to which she replies that she hasn't, but will keep an ear out for him. He expresses his gratitude, thanking her for her help. The maid acknowledges his thanks, confirming her understanding. With a new resolve, he decides that he needs to look for an opportunity to enter the inner storage, a crucial step in his burgeoning plans. He also realizes that he needs to go to the academy, as it's the only option left for him. Eren's gaze hardens, a silent question hanging in the air. Isn't it time for his plan to unfold? He resolves to use those around him to achieve his goals. Meanwhile, a sense of disbelief washes over him, a repeated thought echoing in his mind. This simply isn't possible. He stands in a lavish room, his expression unreadable as a young woman watches him intently. She muses on how she might have embarrassed her older brother, Joanna Steelguard, Levadan's second daughter. Eren, however, is consumed by his own suspicions, convinced that the bastard has something hidden up his sleeves, a secret he's determined to uncover. Joanna, still observing him, wonders how much he truly knows, but resolves to find out. After all, who doesn't know about his schemes? She firmly decides that as a Steelguard, she cannot allow herself to be used, nor will she permit him to return to the family. No, she thinks, absolutely not. Her thoughts continue, dismissing him as not even a fool, but something more dangerous, a tiger. Eren's intense gaze reflects a similar realization. He might even be a tiger himself. He stands before her, a quiet determination in his gaze, as he states his need to uncover the truth. Meanwhile, Joanna, observing from a distance, considers the implications of his actions, believing he is making a mistake and that she should handle the situation herself. She resolves to ensure that she will get to the very bottom of whatever he is hiding, her eyes narrowing with a fierce resolve. Elsewhere, a critical system alert flashes, indicating a lack of intervention and a warning, they cannot let this slide. The Stoneheart protocol is activated, confirming the assessment. He is right, and everyone must acknowledge it. In a control room, Siakan urgently commands everyone to stop, his voice cutting through the tension. The system displays a consensus, he is right, and an apology is due. Further system messages confirm the decision, acknowledging the correctness of the action taken. Maki, however, questions Siakan's judgment, asking if he will simply stand by and allow the arrogance to continue. A stern-faced man, his features etched with resolve, issues a cold command to those unseen, declaring it time to formulate a strategy to capture a ruin, that contemptible individual. Eren Steelguard observes the system notification, noting that the average price of medium-grade mana crystals has already begun to decrease, dropping from 2.5 to 2 coins. As he pours himself a cup of tea, He understands that the once valuable mana crystals are rapidly losing their market price. This sudden drop is due to an oversupply, with too many individuals attempting to sell them, marking the beginning of a destructive competition. However, he dismisses the issue, knowing it isn't his problem, as he continues to profit thanks to his VIP privileges. With 1,002 coins currently in his possession, and an inventory holding 12 low-grade and 22 medium-grade mana crystals, he decides he should start increasing his own stock, despite the risk of damage to items in his inventory. He acknowledges that the sales margin for mana crystals will likely decrease, but concludes that it's still a worthwhile endeavor. Though the current situation is progressing a bit faster than he anticipated, Aaron Steelguard feels confident he can manage it. He reflects on how, in his past, he would have been forced to give up, but now, it is time to make a crucial decision. A fierce resolve hardens his gaze as he mentally addresses Seakin, promising revenge for his last life. He then focuses on 3 glowing red orbs, affirming that he can utilize every resource available to him. A new figure appears, identified as the guardian of the Library of the Heavenly Records, who poses a question. What should I choose? Aaron, his expression resolute, internally acknowledges that giving up is not an option. He resolves to make the most of his rebirth, though he senses there isn't quite enough power yet. He then turns to the guardian, inquiring if there is anything even more powerful or stronger available. A system message appears, displaying a list of skills and stating that the basic unique ultimate skill is not worth selling. Aaron's thoughts drift to the Thousand Sword Castle, a sect with significant influence even within the 5th Murim system, contemplating its immense size. The Thousand Sword Castle, a formidable entity, possesses unique ultimate skills that cannot even be compared to the Bamboo Mountain sect. Aaron then addresses the Guardian, stating, there's something I want to check. The Guardian responds calmly, Sure, what is it? Aaron, surprised by the Guardian's promptness, exclaims, Oh my goodness. The Guardian explains, I was wondering if you weren't coming today. I was waiting all day for you. Here, this is the thing you asked for yesterday. Aaron, observing the displayed interface, asks, Now, I was expecting you to get both of them, but you are fast. The Guardian confirms, Oh, apparently I was waiting now, can I? Is there anything else you are looking for? Aaron, with a determined look, affirms, Oh, there is. Of course there's more. Continuing his discussion with the Guardian, Aaron explains that Hafiel, a wealthy individual he serves, is an ardent martial arts enthusiast. He elaborates that it is challenging to satisfy Hafiel with just any martial arts book, and therefore, he is in desperate need of the Guardian's assistance. The Guardian, listening intently, responds with a polite assurance, offering his full cooperation. Aaron's eyes glow with a faint red light as he continues, mentioning he was thinking of something significant, rather than just a few minor requests. The Guardian pauses, a thoughtful expression crossing his face, as he considers what Aaron might mean by something big. He then suggests that Aaron might be thinking about the Thousand Sword Castle's unique ultimate skill, a request that elicits a moment of hesitation from the Guardian. Seated amidst towering bookshelves, the Guardian questions if even such a task is beyond his capabilities. A holographic interface materializes, displaying critical data, the nickname Seakin, his connection to the 1.5th Murim system, his training rank as level 1, and a skill listing indicating he knows useful martial arts, all for a cost of 500 coins. With a sigh of resignation, the Guardian agrees to the daunting task. A few hours earlier, Aaron had been discussing his plans with his companions, explaining that while his current request was risky, he would provide a deposit. He emphasized the need to convince Hafiel, the master of the Thousand Sword Castle, to teach him their ultimate skills, a feat he knew would be incredibly difficult. Aaron then considered the ultimate skill he sought, his thoughts drifting to Seakin and the martial arts he possessed. He knew that if he failed to convince Hafiel, he would be as good as dead, a grim reality he accepted as he stretched, looking out a window. Returning to the present, Aaron reiterated his need for a deposit to the Guardian, who, after a moment of consideration, agreed to help him. A system notification then flashed, indicating that 200 records related to Aaron had been found, prompting the Guardian to assure him that he would prepare everything by then. The Guardian then walked away, reflecting on the situation, muttering that he simply couldn't afford to get caught. Aaron, however, faced a significant hurdle in his plan, the problem being his inability to directly contact Seakin. Meanwhile, Seakin sat alone on a park bench, unaware of the intricate plans being woven around him. Aaron Steelguard observes a system notification, noting the decreasing stock of middle-grade mana crystals, and considers purchasing from the system. Attempting to acquire Mana Crystal Plus, he's met with an unexpected, almost sentient refusal from the system itself, which declares it won't sell him anything. The system continues its bizarre, personal attack, accusing him of being a nuisance and warning him not to expect anything from it. Confused by the system's hostility, Aaron questions the logic of its behavior. As he ponders the strange interaction, a sudden shift in the atmosphere catches his attention, making him wonder what is happening. Nearby, Joanna watches him, her expression a mix of concern and determination. Without warning, she closes the distance, delivering a sharp slap across his face. Stunned by the sudden impact, Aaron can only stare in disbelief. Joanna stands firm, her anger evident in her clenched fists and stern gaze. Within the Steelguard family, the two daughters possessed strikingly different characteristics. While the elder daughter radiated warmth and care, and Erin, the youngest, was a beloved genius, Levadon, the second daughter, remained cold and unsociable. With a stern expression, Joanna demands answers, declaring that the maid's response is not what she wants to hear, and she will ask again what Arun is hiding from them. The maid, looking distressed, confesses she doesn't know what to do, admitting she isn't doing anything because she's unsure how to proceed. Joanna's frustration boils over as she sharply calls out to her older sister. From behind the maid, Erin intervenes, asking Joanna to relent. Joanna Steelguard, with a cold gaze, addresses the maid, noting her presence and questioning what brings her there. Her brother, Erin, steps forward, asking his sister what she is doing to his maid, his tone laced with concern. Joanna dismisses his concern, wondering aloud when he started caring so much for the maid, implying a deeper, perhaps suspicious, connection. She continues her interrogation, pressing the maid about what Erin is hiding, her expression unwavering. As Joanna reaches out, her hand extending towards the maid flinches back in fear. A sharp sound accompanies the maid's internal thought, realizing she is about to be struck. Erin's voice cuts through the tension, commanding Joanna to stop, his patience clearly at an end. He physically intervenes, grabbing his sister's arm to prevent her from harming the maid, his grip firm. Joanna struggles against his hold, demanding that he release her, her frustration evident. A choked gasp escapes the maid as she recoils from the confrontation, while he firmly reiterates his stance. Pushing his sister away with a decisive shove, insisting she leave the maid alone. Joanna glares back, her frustration evident, accusing him of losing his mind over a lowly servant. He meets her gaze with a stern expression, telling her to apologize to the maid, reminding her that she is also a person. His words strike Joanna with a sharp sting, leaving her speechless and visibly agitated. The maid, still on the floor, looks up in confusion as Joanna, regaining her composure, demands to know why he is suddenly slapping her. Erin dismisses her with a scoff, telling her not to act so arrogant. He wonders who she thinks she is to inflict such injuries, his mind drifting to a past self, a younger version of him who once aspired to be a decent lord, even if he couldn't match his father's greatness. Joanna, however, cuts through his introspection, declaring that he never fails to exceed her expectations, then challenges him directly. Still reeling from the confrontation, the young woman insists she is not involved in any of the accusations, but the young master's voice cuts through her protests, sternly reminding her to keep silent, threatening her life if she disobeys. She repeats her desperate denial, her face contorted in anger and fear, as he simply looks down, challenging her with a quiet, "Oh yeah?" Then, turning away, she offers to leave with her father if that would resolve the situation, a suggestion that visibly startles him. A frustrated groan escapes her lips, her mind racing with the impossible question, how could Erin have discovered all of this? Suddenly, Erin kneels before her, his previous anger replaced by a sincere apology, admitting his mistake. Standing, he looks at her with renewed determination, promising that such an incident will never happen again. His expression softens as he asks if Ezel is all right, his concern evident. Tears stream down Ezel's face as she lets out a soft cry, the weight of his words sinking in. She is one of his people. A sharp sound echoes as Erin's expression hardens, his eyes burning with fierce resolve, declaring that anyone who dares to harm his people will face his wrath, no matter who they are. Siakan watches, his thoughts on the Emperor, as Erin continues to speak to Ezel, who looks up at him with a hint of trepidation. He reassures her, stating that she is a worthy person, and asks for her understanding, to which she quietly affirms. Ezel, however, is internally reeling, wondering how he could have possibly discovered such sensitive information, especially if he claimed to have learned it from the Emperor himself. It seems impossible that Erin could know, leaving her deeply perplexed. Meanwhile, a white-haired man, smoking a cigarette, contemplates the maidsman's skill, the ability to see through lies while still obeying the Emperor, finding the entire concept illogical. He mutters that it simply doesn't make any sense. His blue eyes glow with intense focus as he questions if anyone could truly see through the Emperor's deceptions, believing it would be an easy task for a maidsman if such a skill truly existed. A new thought strikes him, considering the possibility of a stone seller, someone desperate enough for coins to trade secrets, and his eye widens slightly in realization. He ponders the stone seller concept, questioning if the individual he's thinking of could have been one. A system window appears, identifying him as Spider's human, an expert merchant whose level and attire suggest significant experience, yet he feels an unsettling unfamiliarity with himself or the situation. The concept of a stone seller emerges, highlighting the immediate value of current assets over future promises. This principle is understood, especially when urgent needs for coins drive quick transactions. However, problems plague the trading house, with a troublemaker potentially exacerbating issues. Siakan dismisses one suggestion as realistically impossible, prompting the question of what other options remain. The alternative is to further lower the price of mana crystals, even beyond what competitors offer. This aggressive strategy leads to the Merchant Alliance significantly dropping prices, causing customers to buy them up frantically. The market reacts with a mix of desperation and opportunism, some lamenting debt, while others eagerly stock up, convinced the low prices won't last. Indeed, the price of mid-grade mana crystals continues to fluctuate, now averaging 5.5 coins. Waking with a start, Seakin finds himself utterly surprised by the unfolding events, while Aaron, in his own quarters, acknowledges the need to intervene, sensing the situation demands his direct involvement. His hand glowing with a faint green aura, he demands an explanation, recalling his earlier assertion that lowering prices would bring endless benefits. He admits to himself that he hadn't considered this particular outcome, having only suggested the price drop to prevent further reductions, even if his initial reasoning wasn't entirely truthful. Convinced that Aaron is deliberately trying to erode his credibility, Seakin dismisses the attempts to sway him, declaring that he's fine with being distrusted. He concedes that his predictions were indeed incorrect, but only if one is willing to surrender to the troublemaker like this. The very thought of yielding to such a person ignites his fury, and he vehemently rejects the notion, asserting it will never come to pass. He then challenges Aaron to place his trust in him once more, a question that hangs in the air as Aaron's shadowy form appears to question him in return. Aaron, his eyes glowing faintly in the darkness, reveals a secret plan he has prepared to stop the troublemaker. The man known as Spider-Human asserts that the Lord's coins are not human, emphasizing that the individual in question is simply not human. He then questions the troublemaker's pattern, recalling the consistent trend. If we lower 1 coin, he lowers 2 coins. Yet, despite this aggressive counter-strategy, his price has remained identical to theirs since yesterday. Observing a glowing interface, he deduces that the opponent must also be concealing their limits, pondering how they can be certain they aren't missing something even more profound, especially if this individual is capable of perfectly hiding their true strength beyond what's immediately apparent. He concludes that they cannot simply continue guessing the enemy's strength, and instead, they need to expand their sphere and crystal business. A voice from the interface questions if that isn't just a waste of time, reminding him that they are already at their limit. Spider-Human counters, suggesting another option, to create an alliance, just as they did before, questioning if that wasn't the very reason the Multimalies were formed. The glowing interface displays a single word, a surprised what? In response to his bold statement. Spider-Human's lips curl into a sinister smile as he outlines his true ambition, to gather numerous sellers and expand his control over the mana crystal business. Seakin, taken aback, questions the chairman's apparent greed, wondering if this was his intention all along, though he admits he never thought he'd become a villain. Despite his initial shock, Seakin's hand clenches, and he concedes that while he admires the chairman, this new path doesn't feel entirely wrong. A low chuckle escapes Spider-Human as his eyes begin to glow with a fierce red light, a subtle aura forming around him, signifying his vision has opened. Now fully enveloped in a vibrant red aura, he declares his ability to perceive his enemy's weaknesses, driven by a singular desire to become a wealthy merchant. A system notification flashes into existence, revealing the activation of a sanctification system, and a special privilege known as asymmetry of information. Still radiating red energy, Spider-Human gazes at a glowing projection, explaining that he anticipated the alliance's formation since he began selling mana crystals, despite his minimal visible presence within the group. He elaborates on his unique ability, a special privilege that grants him information inaccessible to lower entities, acknowledging that others might misunderstand his methods, but asserting that information is power. Another system message appears, clarifying that he has been a member of the Multimalies since its very inception, even if his presence was not widely felt. He continues, explaining that the reason for such competitions is simply to create opportunities for profit. There are 2 main types of individuals who participate. First, those who cannot survive without immediate gain. Then, with a chilling resolve, he declares that everyone involved will eventually face a shared demise. The second type are those like Hearthstone, the leader of the alliance, who are content to wait for the perfect moment to strike. He explains that if Hearthstone were to successfully dominate the mana crystal industry, he would have no reason to engage in such a competition. For them, immediate action is not effective, making the current situation a perfect scenario for their long-term strategy. Seakin's eyes widen in realization, understanding that allowing Hearthstone to believe this way is all part of a much larger plan. The normal members of the Multimalies haven't yet realized the true nature of the competition, but some have already started to take an offensive stance. And by carefully observing the competition between them and the Multimalies, he can gain an even deeper understanding of the market dynamics. Continuing his explanation, Spider-Human reveals that their adversaries are not merely competing, but actively planning to bring in a third party to seize all the mana crystals for themselves. He dismisses the notion of holding onto the crystals as impossible, stating it's simply common sense, before declaring it's time for him to return, commanding his listener to hear and obey. Elsewhere, a woman sits alone at a table, her mind racing, wondering how he could have possibly uncovered such sensitive information. Her concern deepens as she recalls that he even explicitly named the firm, the Damien firm. A younger man, Huni, appears, and the woman exclaims, fearing that he might have discovered her, addressing Huni as her older sister. She quickly advises Huni that it's best not to discuss the thing, her expression filled with apprehension. Huni, looking confused, questions what the thing is, to which she clarifies, Damien firm. She gestures for him to come inside, the two of them continuing their hushed conversation. The Damien firm, a name that now carries a heavy weight, is known for providing houses with necessary supplies, and is generally considered a stable and well-regarded entity. However, the true problem lies in its ownership by the Steelguard family, a relationship forged when the firm provided investment money to the family after purchasing their land. Inside, Huni admits he doesn't know much about it himself, only that he heard he could earn a significant amount of money working there for a short time. His sister presses him, asking how he found out about such a rumor, which she considers obvious. She then asks about the other Huni, the one who is his equal but holds a much higher position, leaving him stunned. She explains that the rumor has been circulating for a long time, wondering if he had heard it, which is why she came to him. Her voice rises in frustration, reminding him that she has repeatedly asked him to keep quiet, trying to look out for him, yet he always seems to run away from her warnings. He asks what she is so afraid of. Huni, addressing her as his sister, admits there's only one thing truly worrying him, then asks if she found him first, or if she sought their help. She clarifies that they approached her first, merely asking for a favor, but she eventually found herself working for the firm. Huni insists that a firm as significant as Damien wouldn't be so careless, but his sister's words about being scared and weak echo in his mind. Suddenly, a young man with light brown hair interjects, declaring that he welcomes any criticism, reiterating that his presence there is for a different purpose entirely. Huni's sister, however, ponders how she might earn his trust, suggesting they are in a similar position before letting out a weary sigh. Huni, taken aback, questions the man's intentions, demanding to know what he truly desires from them. The man, Darren, then addresses Huni's sister directly, proposing they begin working together. Her eyes widen slightly, a look of surprise crossing her face. Darren leans forward, a confident smirk playing on his lips, asking if it isn't a hard deal to refuse. A grand, ancient structure stands majestically under a soft, ethereal light. Inside, Joanna turns to Aaron, stating, "Then, I'll leave it to you." He responds, "All right, I'll tell you the details later." As she begins to walk away, Aaron reflects that their exchange had been an argument, filled with lies. Still, he concludes, it wasn't too bad for now. Joanna continues her departure, revealing her plan to team up with Siakin, and that she'll have to see what will happen in the long run. Suddenly, a sharp chime rings out, startling Aaron as he looks down at his device, wondering what this first message could be. He reads the glowing text on the screen, a simple "O" escaping him as he processes the notification. You received 10 bamboo pill of life from the Bamboo Mountain sect. A close-up reveals the hexagonal box containing the 10 glowing pills, prompting Aaron to question, "What? He gave me more." Still reeling from the unexpected gift, he stares at the bamboo pill of life in his hand, a red glow briefly flaring in his eye. Meanwhile, for those who utilized the dimensional transaction book, a new opportunity had opened, a veritable gold mine. He knew he had to find more, but where? It couldn't be from here. Middle-class families simply didn't get a hold of it. He would have to go to a place only the truly wealthy could enter. The young master then discusses the cutthroat price wars among the multimillionaires, while Maki adds that such auctions are held only once a day, and that Hearthstone had its own agenda. Maki observes that it looks like his master is trying to minimize his losses, realizing now why he had seemingly thrown away 4 coins earlier. He was clearly thinking ahead. Aaron, however, needed a lot more, and a crucial detail came to mind. If a buyer was a member of the Bamboo Mountain sect, they could receive a discount on the bamboo pill of life crystal. Just then, a system notification flashes, announcing the discovery of the bamboo pill of life, cautioning that the item is fragile and damaged. Undeterred, he declares his intention to aim for even more. A confident, almost predatory smile spreads across his face, his eye glowing with renewed determination. A system notification flashes, confirming the discovery of 1 Moon Crystal Plus and 2 Moon Crystal Plus, and Aaron Steelguard can barely contain his excitement, declaring himself freaking rich at the prospect of such valuable finds. Later that night, the scene shifts to the imposing facade of Damien Firm. Aaron, accompanied by a man in a white hooded robe, approaches the entrance of the establishment. A uniformed guard steps forward, attempting to block their path, politely but firmly stating that they cannot simply walk in. The robed man, his expression unyielding, demands to speak with the manager. The guard reacts with a startled, almost fearful, interjection. With a commanding tone, the robed man instructs the guard to inform the manager that Sir Yulaf has arrived, leaving the guard stunned. Immediately, the guard's demeanor shifts to one of extreme deference, bowing deeply and apologizing profusely, explaining that they were awaiting Sir Yulaf and inviting them inside where Damien is waiting. A guard gestures, leading Aaron Steelguard and his robed companion down a pristine hallway. As they enter a spacious room, the guard announces their arrival to a man waiting within, proclaiming that Sir Yulaf has arrived. The man, introducing himself as Damien, the team leader, offers a polite greeting. The guard, still reeling from the unexpected name drop, can only wonder how this youngster knows someone of such stature, questioning if the robed figure is truly the head of the crystal providers and resolving to confirm with his boss. Such thoughts are likely running through many minds. With a confident air, Damien assures them that a substantial amount of goods is on its way, reiterating the robed companion's earlier promise. Seated at a table, with moon crystals laid out before them, Aaron gets straight to the point, declaring his desire for the crystals. Damien, having thoroughly examined a sample, inquires about the price they are willing to pay. He then questions the difficulty of acquiring the crystals with only one sample. Darren presents a small bag, explaining that this is precisely why he brought it. He urges them to take a look as the bag is opened, revealing a cascade of glowing blue crystals. An hour earlier, Aaron Steelguard had been deep in his own research. Holding a single, shimmering moon crystal, he mused that he had finally cracked the code on their mysterious properties. He explained to Seakin that the crystals were not only rare but also incredibly difficult to refine, with a process so complex it was almost impossible to do manually, suggesting they examine them further. As they both scrutinized the glowing gems, Seakin admitted he had only ever possessed about 3 at once, while Aaron had only managed to acquire a single one. Back in the present, Darren held one of the crystals, marveling at its delicate nature and confirming its mana was of the highest quality. He then proposed a price of 100 gold, though he quickly added that the cost felt a bit high. Aaron, cloaked and shadowed, countered with an offer of 80 gold, asserting that he could likely acquire more than anyone else and was willing to pay that amount. Seakin, ever the pragmatist, dismisses Joanna from the room, signaling the start of serious negotiations. Though she hesitates, finding herself at a loss for words, she eventually complies, leaving Darren to face the negotiator alone. Seakin observes Darren, noting that while a true conversation might be out of reach, at least he possesses the good sense to understand the room's atmosphere. Darren, perhaps anticipating a stalemate, wonders aloud if he'll need to approach another firm, before quickly correcting himself, remembering their current meeting. He calls out, surprised by the turn of events, realizing things are unfolding exactly as he expected. Seakin, acknowledging Darren's tenacity, finally concedes to the original price of 100 gold. Both Darren and Joanna look on, stunned by the unexpected concession. When a new, even higher price is suddenly declared, 120 gold. Aaron, his eyes glowing with a fierce intensity, demands clarification, insisting on 120 gold for each crystal. His face is a canvas of fresh bruises and scratches, his eyes sunken with exhaustion, a stark contrast to the confident young noble from moments before. Huni's voice rises in disbelief, questioning the proposed price. Seated across from him, Maki hesitates, finding the price a bit steep, wondering how he could possibly sell it without knowing the current market value. His expression remains stern, considering the implications of the deal. Huni's eyes widen, a silent exclamation of frustration at the impasse. Maki then offers a compromise. Well, please sit down first. Then I'll consider it. I won't take the gold yet, but I'll consider 120 gold. Huni's brow furrows at the conditional offer, muttering, only consider, before a sudden decision hardens his resolve. Fuck it. He slams his hand down, declaring, aye, let's do it. 120 gold it is. Maki looks down, a slight smirk playing on his lips, while Joanna watches him, as Huni internally celebrates his successful negotiation, and his older sister, seems to share his relief. As the negotiation continued, Joanna Steelguard considered the situation, wondering if the current offer truly made sense, especially after the initial argument over 120 gold had seemingly reduced the sum to 60. Turning to Huni, she voiced her suspicion, asking if he might be holding back something else of value. With a sigh, Joanna admitted her honest assessment, stating that she could only secure up to 100 gold for the quality of what was being offered. Huni's eyes widened in disbelief, his voice laced with indignation as he questioned if they were truly joking about leaving him with only 60 gold. He pressed his point, explaining that he needed to at least cover his labor fees, unwilling to work for such low profits. A small bag of gold coins lay on the table, its contents appearing satisfactory to the observer. Huni, however, remained unimpressed, looking at the gold with a scowl, feeling utterly underestimated and demanding to know if this paltry sum was truly all they had to offer. His gaze hardened, and he declared his true demand, 300 in total. The bag of gold, still resting on the table, continued to appear perfectly acceptable, despite Huni's protests. Maki explains the additional costs for labor and transportation, concluding that Huni would still be at a loss regardless of how he calculated it. While Joanna adds that a mana crystal's price is fundamentally based on its purity level. She continues, stating that even if they couldn't offer more than 100 gold, that was already a generous rough estimate, so demanding 300 gold was simply too much. Huni, however, remains unfazed, thinking to himself that it wouldn't matter even if he had been completely outmaneuvered in the negotiation. Maki finally concedes, acknowledging their understanding, and Joanna adds that this trade will ultimately benefit them as well. With the agreement reached, Maki leans back, admitting that Huni had totally surpassed his expectations. Joanna smiles, stating she doesn't truly care how he intends to fulfill his end, only that he doesn't go back on his word. Maki, however, remains thoughtful, finding it suspicious that Huni hadn't focused on the mana crystals themselves, the true heart of the negotiation. Dismissing the notion with a wave of his hand, Seakin laughs, denying any malicious intent. He explains that his actions were merely out of curiosity, and that he simply learned a little about Huni. Maki, however, finds this explanation deeply irritating, while Huni looks on in surprise, as Maki demands to know when he learned to turn his ears. Huni, bewildered by the sudden outburst, calls out, wondering why Maki is reacting this way. Maki clenches his jaw, muttering in frustration, insisting that Huni doesn't need to know about that person. A sudden, sharp pain racks his body, causing blood to trickle from his mouth as he exclaims that he already knew. He doubles over, racked by a violent coughing fit, the sound echoing through the room. Still struggling to catch his breath, Maki continues to cough, his hand pressed to his mouth. Then, a chilling, almost manic laughter erupts from him, his eyes wide with a disturbing realization. Maki's face contorts in a silent scream, his eyes wide with a mixture of pain and disbelief, as the revelation from Seiken continues to echo in his mind. He clutches his chest, a pained grunt escaping his lips, before forcing out a strained apology, excusing himself from the conversation. Seiken watches, a flicker of concern crossing his features, while Joanna observes the scene with a thoughtful expression, noting the sudden difficulty this presents for their immediate plans. Maki, now composed, reflects on his quick thinking, acknowledging that his feigned distress allowed him to skillfully sidestep a potentially awkward line of questioning. Joanna's gaze remains fixed, her expression unreadable, as she processes the sudden turn of events. Later, walking through a bustling street, Maki turns to Joanna, a subtle shift in his demeanor as he states they are finally alone, the pretense of illness now completely dropped. He then poses a direct question about her younger sister, prompting Joanna to inquire about his identity and intentions. He stands before Joanna, who questions why he didn't inform her of his plans, but he dismisses her inquiry, stating it's none of her business. He then challenges her, asking if she truly believes he's unaware of local customs, and how else she thinks he's managed to maintain decent relations despite his status. Joanna, however, quickly retorts, asserting that it's because of me. Turning his back to her, Maki corrects her, stating that it's because of Darren Steelguard's guarantee. As he begins to walk away, he muses that her presence puts him in a difficult situation, implying that if something were to happen to him, she would be left to fend for herself. Joanna watches him go, her expression betraying her annoyance, muttering that she can't just ignore his awkward acting. He continues to move away from her, but glances back over his shoulder, a knowing look in his eyes, acknowledging that, as expected from Darren, Joanna is indeed sharp. Joanna, catching his gaze, demands he spit it out. Joanna, her expression sharp and accusatory, points a finger, demanding to know if this is a ruined trap. The hooded figure remains silent for a moment, then lets out a soft, almost mocking, uft. Joanna's frustration boils over, demanding to know what he finds so amusing. Maki stifles another laugh, finding it absurd that anyone would consider 30,000 gold a small goal. He quickly clarifies that he didn't mean it in that way, but then genuinely asks what Joanna would consider a truly significant sum. Joanna, her face flushing with anger, reveals she heard the money was from Arun and that he was going to give it to someone else, recoiling slightly as she speaks. Her patience completely gone, she shouts at him, demanding he move. A flashback shows a younger Maki, reflecting that as he grew older, he realized the only people he could truly lean on were family. Joanna, looking away, advises him to try and get along better with his family, warning him not to regret it in the future. She sits in the grand hall, her gaze fixed on the cloaked figure, a bitter thought echoing in her mind. Like me. With a dismissive gesture, Maki simply tells her to wait in the carriage. Turning his back to her, he adds that he will send the compensation through Arun. The casual dismissal ignites a furious spark within her, leaving her to seethe. Man, what the hell? As he walks away, her frustration only deepens. Under the soft glow of a crescent moon, the Grand Steelguard castle stands, its ancient stones silent witnesses to the night. Inside, Aaron Steelguard reclines, his thoughts consumed by a recent negotiation, the final offer for the red-green mana stone from the duchy being a mere 100,000 gold. He knows that in terms of actual cost, it would be a significant loss, even excluding the irreplaceable mana he expended to acquire it. A wave of frustration washes over him, his eyes glowing faintly red as he recalls bringing back only a few of the stones, only for them to be declared worthless. Elsewhere, Seiken reminds Joanna that he rejected a marriage proposal that could have benefited their family, implying she should try to get along better with him. As Aaron walks away, Joanna offers a quiet apology to her brother, her gaze cast downward. Back in his room, Aaron's anger flares again, his eyes burning red as he thinks about the words spoken, believing he would need to disguise himself to utter such sentiments. But as a Steelguard, he knows people wouldn't dare speak to him that way, and his own arrogance wouldn't allow it. Aaron reflects on his journey, acknowledging that his current life is unfolding quite differently from his past experiences. He assures himself that he harbors no ill will or lingering resentment from the long-held grudges of his past, but rather, a new, singular focus now occupies his thoughts. He has something far more important to concentrate on. A faint blue glow emanates from below as he realizes he is only a footstep away, just half a step from Seiken. With a fierce determination, a vibrant red aura flares around his head, his eyes burning with resolve. In the Golden Kingdom, the primary currency is known as Golden Stem, though in the human world, it is simply referred to as gold. Despite its common name, gold is a rare metal and not typically used as currency, with system messages indicating sale limits of 5,000 and 25,000 units applied to its transactions. Having sold a significant amount overnight, Aaron checks his account, expecting a substantial increase in his coin possession. His eyes glowing with a faint red light, He confirms the transactions are complete. Suddenly, a sharp, biric sound emanates from the holographic interface, displaying an unread message. His eyes widening with recognition, he realizes the long-awaited communication has arrived. As his finger hovers over the accept prompt, a wave of hesitation washes over him. He shouldn't accept it so readily, he muses, unwilling to appear desperate. Taking a deep breath to compose himself, he reminds himself to act natural. With a newfound resolve hardening his gaze, he makes his decision. His finger descends, pressing the accept button with a soft G sound, committing to the unknown. As Aaron accepted the system message, a new chat window materialized, displaying a message from Seakin, who greeted him with a polite, "Thank you for waiting," adding that Aaron was exactly on time. Seakin, a slight smile playing on his lips as he held the tablet, feigned surprise, asking, "Oh, what are you here?" before quickly correcting himself, "Why so grumpy? I better be on time. After all, this is the first time everything is in the right place." His internal monologue, however, betrayed his true intentions, admitting he shouldn't have said that, fearing Aaron would get the wrong idea, and resolving not to let him know something important. Aaron, his expression shifting to one of surprise, realized Seakin was talking about him, acknowledging to himself that he was indeed the one always late. With a gesture, Seakin offered to show him the message. The message detailed a profound revelation. He had been selected to be trained in the heavenly I Ching technique, a secret known only to the Grand Master and those part of the heavenly I Ching. Aaron's eyes flared with a crimson glow, his expression hardening as he observed the message, concluding that the sender was clearly unhappy with him. Meanwhile, Seakin, a subtle smirk playing on his lips, mused that with this development, Maki would soon be catching up. Aaron, still reeling from the revelation, questioned how such an inner cultivation technique, belonging only to the Lord of the natural world, could be learned, wondering if it was the work of someone named Raphael, and urgently demanding more information. Seakin continues his message, assuring Aaron that he will be completely honest, even as he laments the relatively small sum of 2,500 coins, which pales in comparison to the true value of the heavenly I Ching technique. Aaron, still processing the implications of the technique, hears Seakin declare himself the successor of the Lord of the natural world, offering to help him become stronger, even the strongest, and then, surprisingly, stating a need to hire a bodyguard. Aaron's expression shifts to one of confusion and disbelief, his thoughts echoing Seakin's words as he wonders what the man intends to do with such a powerful technique if he needs a bodyguard. Seakin continues, revealing a vulnerability by admitting he was scammed by many people in his past life, acknowledging his current pitiful situation. Aaron, still perplexed, internally states his ignorance about the situation, while Seakin's message continues, asserting that getting a bodyguard is about prioritizing life, and urging Aaron to trust him, promising help. He then offers to provide Aaron with the best training to become an expert, prompting a surprised, hopeful reaction from the young man, who tentatively asks if he truly can. Seakin, still reflecting on his own past, muses that their meeting must be fate, describing himself as a hermit who doesn't know how to avoid losses, but vows to try his best. He reiterates his commitment to help Aaron as much as possible, inviting him to ask for anything he needs during his training, and promising to cover all his expenses to the best of his ability. Overwhelmed by the generous offer, Aaron leaps with joy, expressing his profound gratitude. Aaron reflects on the harsh truth that everything said about him is indeed accurate, even as he once aspired to become a decent lord, if not as great as his father. A wave of frustration washes over him as he recalls a past encounter, demanding to know how much someone was willing to sell something for. The memory shifts to an older man, glasses perched on his nose, confidently asserting that his offer was a good deal, unlike anything he'd seen before, leaving Aaron to ponder the claim. The realization hits him with a jolt, a painful memory of being utterly scammed, having used up all his allowance, and even borrowed from his parents due to his inability to earn coins. His eyes glow with a frustrated red light as he tries to calculate the damage, asking if he now owed 3,800 coins, excluding the 200 he'd already paid. The scammer, with a knowing smirk, simply confirms it, while Aaron's past self laments his own naivety, unable to distinguish a genuine deal from a trick. The memory continues, showing Aaron's growing desperation as he reveals he had already spent those initial 200 coins on a supposed technique. The scammer, unfazed, laughs off Aaron's plight, feigning being overwhelmed by the sheer amount of coins, demanding 1,700 instead of just 1 or 2. Tears well in Aaron's eyes as he finally gives in, resigning himself to taking whatever he could get, since the technique he learned was useless anyway. He stares at the holographic interface, a system message indicating that the other party is ready to proceed with the transaction, awaiting his response. A red glow emanates from the screen as he thinks, this feels like a scam, a deliberate attempt to exploit his situation, especially with the current sale on skill slots. Sitting on his bed, he laments that he's still short on the required 25 coins, even after considering all his noble privileges. The glowing scale visually represents the exact amount needed, a mere 25 coins. Frustration etched on his face, he acknowledges his lack of funds and the ongoing sale, leaving him with no other choice but to consider the trade, wondering how much he stands to lose if he doesn't act now. His eyes glow with a fierce red light as he dismisses his concerns, resolving to buy it anyway, recalling the technique he had previously received. Still with glowing eyes, he remembers discussing it with his client, Haffel, acknowledging that while 25 coins isn't a bad deal, it's also not a common technique. Meanwhile, Seakin smiles knowingly, amused by the situation. The holographic screen confirms the decision, announcing that the trade between Arun and Seakyun is about to commence. With a final, determined breath, his hand hovers over the glowing interface, accepting the trade offer for the cultivation technique of Chaos Secret Arts. Meanwhile, a knowing finger points downward, as the other party declares, "My prey has taken the bait." He finishes, a small, satisfied smile playing on his lips, while Aaron's eyes glow crimson, a stark red error message flashing before him as the realization dawns. Suddenly, his surroundings shift, and he finds himself clad in unfamiliar traditional attire, standing on a glowing, rune-edged platform, looking down into an unknown abyss. A faint, rhythmic thrumming emanates from a glowing red device, signaling a critical moment. As the system confirms the trade has been completed, Aaron Steelguard's eyes glow with a sinister red light, a chilling smile spreading across his face as he realizes his previous trap has finally activated. He observes the notification, noting the trade request to Haffel Steelguard was accepted, yet he received no items, a detail that only fuels his dark satisfaction. But his eyes glow brighter, a wide, almost manic smile stretching across his face as he declares, he finally understands what revenge truly feels like, finding the sensation thrilling. He looks upward, a thought forming in his mind. The most incredible part is that he isn't the one who will be the deceiver, and he eagerly anticipates the future expression of his target. Another system message appears, thanking him for the quick trade and asking him to thank Haffel, to which he simply remarks that someone is clearly excited. Meanwhile, in a different location, Seakin smiles knowingly, confirming that it was not difficult to make them all fall for his trick. He smiles, a hint of mischief in his eyes, wondering how the other person would feel about his actions. Suddenly, a voice cuts through the air, asking for an explanation. Seakin's expression shifts to one of feigned surprise, as if genuinely confused by the sudden interruption and the nature of the question. But the surprise quickly melts away, replaced by a chilling smile as he acknowledges the situation, revealing his true target, Jung Si-kyun, whom he labels a fraud. His words hang heavy in the air, a direct accusation against Jung Si-kyun. As his eyes begin to glow with a faint red light, a thought crosses his mind. Does librarian Jung Sik know about these schemes? With a knowing smirk, he continues, questioning the other's audacity to carry out such actions. The unnamed figure reacts with a subtle tremor, a quiet acknowledgement of the gravity of Seakin's words. Still reeling from the previous revelation, he could only stammer in disbelief, questioning how his true identity had been uncovered. Trying to regain his composure, he urged himself to calm down, convinced that his secret couldn't possibly be known, but Seakin's voice cut through his thoughts, dismissing his internal struggle. With eyes glowing a sinister red, Seakin addressed him directly, warning him not to embarrass himself. Sweat beading on his brow, the man desperately suggested bringing in a third party to verify the claims, but a narration box questioned his refusal to admit his true identity, hinting at the reason he couldn't. Seakin, his red eyes still burning, raised a hand to silence him, then made a shocking declaration. He himself was Jung Si-kyun, leaving no room for refutation. As Seakin looked down, his red eyes still intense, he pondered the true nature of the man before him, confirming that he was not the real Jung Si-kyun. With a final, chilling smile, Seakin reiterated his claim to be the genuine Jung Si-kyun, asserting that a liar always lives in fear. The man, now identified as Richard Kim by a system window, stared in utter shock as his true identity and System O class were laid bare. His fist clenched and trembled. Richard Kim's mind raced, realizing Seakin couldn't possibly know about the dimensional transactions, which had no records. Richard Kim's mind raced, unable to comprehend how a mere low-level system user could have uncovered his secrets. Seakin, observing the system window, calmly stated that the system itself was not the issue, but rather the user. Richard, however, was fixated on the system, wondering if it was somehow flawed. He stares at the screen, a profile for Richard Kim displayed, detailing his ambition and bravery. Meanwhile, a smug Richard Kim, surrounded by a faint red aura, believes his opponent is listening from behind the wall. He presses the advantage, demanding to know if the other man wishes to live. Annoyed but resigned, Seakin agrees to cooperate, warning Richard not to disgrace him. Richard Kim, still radiating his crimson glow, lays out his conditions: death if Seakin doesn't respond within 5 seconds, and death if he closes the message tab. The system message confirms the gravity of the situation, and Seakin, with a sigh, acknowledges his predicament. Richard Kim demands his answer, and Seakin, seemingly defeated, declares he will do whatever is asked of him. But with a cruel smirk, Richard Kim dismisses him, kicking him from the party and leaving Seakin utterly bewildered. A system message then appears, informing him he received coins from himself, leaving Seakin utterly confused about the unexpected transaction. Still reeling from the previous encounter, Seakin attempts to transfer coins, only to find it impossible, while Richard Kim demands to know if he's checked his coin balance. His eyes glowing with a frantic red light, Seakin panics, realizing the system has stolen his coins, yet desperately tries to reassure himself that everything is still alright. As Richard Kim taunts him, asking if he thought he could get away with it, Seakin, still visibly distressed, can only admit his foolish hope. A system message then flashes, indicating he has received 1,000 coins from himself, leaving him utterly bewildered by the impossible transaction. With his eyes glowing ominously, Richard Kim reveals his true intention, to reclaim the coins and kick Seakin from the party, yet assures him that he will still be able to live. Later, lying in bed, Seakin is tormented by the threat of death if he doesn't comply, ultimately deciding to follow every command until he reaches max level, unable to risk his life. A glowing book appears, its pages open to a stark warning. Any suspicious actions will be akin to cutting open a golden egg, referring to Richard Kim's golden eggs. With a thoughtful expression and glowing eyes, Richard Kim dismisses the matter, deciding to address it at a later time. Meanwhile, Seakin remains trapped in a loop of confusion, repeatedly receiving system messages that he has received coins from himself, each notification deepening his bewilderment. A system message flashes before Seakin, informing him of yet another coin transfer from himself, leaving him utterly bewildered. His eyes glowing with distress, he can only stammer a denial, while Richard Kim observes his unraveling with a knowing smirk. More messages flood his vision, each confirming another inexplicable transfer, as Richard Kim continues to press his advantage. Overwhelmed by the relentless system notifications and the sheer weight of the situation, Seakin collapses to his knees, desperately asking if there is truly no other way out of this predicament. Richard Kim, holding a glowing, golden orb in his hand, simply states the exact amount required, 216 coins. He reiterates the demand, his gaze fixed on the desperate man before him. Richard Kim then glances down at the glowing orb, muttering to himself about how the other party knew the exact number of the last one. The implication sends a fresh wave of shock through Seakin, who can only gasp, wondering if Richard Kim is perhaps a VIP. As the weight of his situation settles, a profound shift occurs within him, his eyes flaring with an intense red glow. And he brings a finger to his lips, a silent command to himself or an unseen presence. Shush! A figure with dark hair and glasses kneels before Aaron, who stands over him, his golden blonde hair framing eyes that now glow with an ominous red light. The kneeling man asks how Aaron knew about his secret. Aaron, his gaze piercing, simply states that he is there for an old debt, while the man, visibly distressed, questions what Aaron wants from him. As Aaron reiterates his purpose, he then challenges the man, asking how he could possibly know about the situation surrounding that debt. His red eyes burning with conviction, Aaron declares that the man has no right to question him. The man looks up at Aaron, his face etched with fear, as the weight of the confrontation settles upon him. Reaching out a trembling hand, the man desperately asks what else Aaron wants, claiming he has no money left. Aaron's glowing eyes remain fixed, as he repeats a chilling apology, twice. Tears stream down the man's face as he cries out that Aaron cannot simply take his life away, prompting Aaron to question what he means. Still reeling from the confrontation, the man in glasses struggles to comprehend what Aaron is talking about, his mind racing to understand the mention of martial arts books. Aaron, his eyes glowing with an ominous red light, simply reiterates his demand, his voice firm and unwavering. The man, still confused, can only stammer a question about the books, clearly unaware of their significance. Aaron's patience wears thin, a crimson aura flaring around him as he explains the books are not just any texts, but ancient, forbidden knowledge that could grant immense power, and he wants them all. His voice drops to a chilling command, insisting the man hand them over. The man, now visibly trembling, can only stare in wide-eyed terror. Aaron, his red eyes burning, accuses the man of trying to hide the books, warning him that his life depends on his cooperation. With a final, chilling declaration, Aaron gives him 10 seconds to comply. He had always wondered, if the old tales were true, that those who learned the ancient martial arts would live and die by them. But was that really the case? A system notification then flashed, confirming the bestowal was complete, granting him the title of Ruin along with a heavenly devastation skill, a feathered robe, an obsidian cloak, a heavenly blade, an eternal ring, breathing of dragon, 10,000 steps, dragon's eye, and the ancient martial arts themselves. A scoff escaped him, realizing that nothing was more important than one's life, and that even the system couldn't change that fundamental truth. His eyes glowed with a fierce red light, a silent testament to the power now coursing through him. Looking down at the terrified man, Aaron's voice was cold, observing that he truly lacked any fundamentals. He then reiterated his demand, giving the man 10 seconds to hand over the books. And what would happen after that? He would die? Aaron, surrounded by a faint red glow, looks down with an intense gaze, acknowledging his past actions by stating he is no saint, but also no hypocrite. As a red light emanates from his hand, he continues, his voice carrying a cold edge, insisting that he is simply not a good person, despite any previous claims. A system notification flashes, revealing his status as a revolution species/human hunter at system level 1. Exchange level 2, as Aaron's expression shifts to a smirk, telling Seakin that he is misunderstanding the situation and giving him 10 seconds to comply. Seakin, visibly sweating and shocked, tries to assert his authority, demanding to know what Eren means and questioning his audacity to threaten him. But Eren simply reiterates his demand, insisting that Seakin is mistaken and must do as he says if he wishes to live. As Eren's red aura intensifies, Seakin collapses to his knees in terror, while the young man delivers his final ultimatum: hand over the ancient books within 10 seconds, or face death. His eyes glowing with a malevolent red light, Eren promises to make him suffer and regret his defiance. Meanwhile, a different man clasps his hands together, an unsettlingly wide smile spreading across his face. As the 10-second ultimatum hung heavy in the air, Eren's voice cut through the silence, reminding Seakin of the rapidly dwindling time, while the scholar could only think of the impossible demand. Then, with a subtle shift in his demeanor, Eren's eyes flared with an ominous red glow, and Seakin gasped, a wave of pure dread washing over him. Overwhelmed by the oppressive aura, Seakin let out a desperate, terrified scream, his hands instinctively flying to cover his face. A triumphant, golden light now pulsed around him, as Eren watched the scholar's complete breakdown with a chilling, satisfied smile. His red eyes still glowing, he mused that everything was unfolding precisely as he had planned, Seakin now firmly within his grasp. A system message then appeared, revealing a critical truth: it was unnatural for humans to wield such power. Only those designated as revolution species could possess the system, and he was one of them, with both his exchange and system levels at 1. With his eyes still radiating power, Eren activated another system command: absorb. A soft, ethereal sound filled the air, as the sky above seemed to ripple with unseen energy. Then, the scene shifted dramatically, transitioning to a serene, sun-drenched forest, bathed in the gentle light of a new day. A sudden burst of blue energy ripples through the air. As Maki moves with purpose through a dark, misty forest, red glowing particles drifting around him. Meanwhile, in a sunlit glade, Eren finds himself lost in thought, reflecting on a past he had almost forgotten, a time when he was a child dreaming of becoming a great lord like his father. Back in the misty woods, Maki nods, acknowledging the gravity of a situation, understanding completely, and offering a quiet apology. He continues his urgent sprint through the dense foliage, the thought of merely running fast not enough to overcome the challenge ahead. Reaching the edge of a towering cliff, he takes a decisive leap, launching himself into the void. Plummeting downwards, he hurtles towards a glowing red mountain. His eyes widening in utter disbelief at the sight before him, uttering a single, shocked word: impossible. Standing on the precipice, he finally acknowledges the immense effort he put in, realizing it was all worth it to acquire this skill, a privilege long held by the Steelguard family. As the red book glows with intense energy, Maki feels the truth of everything they said about him resonate deep within. Falling through the air, he considers the risk. Without the Steelguard family's bloodline, his very organs might burst from the strain, though it's just a theory. Yet, he prepares to unleash the secret technique that once made the hero Levidan Steelguard the strongest sword-ranked knight, a blue aura flaring around his blade. Facing 3-armed opponents, he knows its strength is immense. With a sudden burst of speed, he launches into a rapid, mid-air sword attack, leaving a trail of shimmering blue energy. The blue energy slash extends rapidly, cutting through the air. He lands with precision, having already struck one of the opponents, who recoils in agony. Unleashing a flurry of blue energy slashes, he overwhelms all 3 opponents simultaneously with the Mystery Blade, a technique considered lost after Levidan Steelguard's death. A final, powerful blue energy explosion engulfs the area, leaving nothing but devastation. He descends, his blade still humming with the residual blue energy of the Mystery Blade, a technique unseen for more than a decade. Landing with a controlled impact, his expression is grimly resolute. The lost art, once thought gone forever, has now been unleashed once more within the very heart of the Steelguard territory. Elsewhere, a sinister, masked figure watches, their eyes glowing with an unsettling red light, as if observing the unfolding events from a desolate, blood-soaked landscape. Maki pushes forward, his breath coming in ragged gasps as he sprints through the dense forest. Eren's eyes widen slightly, a flicker of disbelief crossing his face as he considers the implications of what he's just learned. Thinking to himself that this revelation is simply too much to process, he then ponders if Haffel could truly be capable of such a feat, quickly concluding that given his nature, it's entirely possible. A faint blue energy pulses, a visual representation of the power he's contemplating, as he acknowledges that one cannot compare the raw force of a sword's ki to the refined power of an aura. He stands beside a cloaked figure, lost in thought, considering the idea that believing this power originated from a mere system is a profound misunderstanding. A pang of sadness hits him as he wonders if this is how Haffel managed to grow from a low-level system user to a high-ranker, a realization that leaves him feeling a bit melancholic. He questions if it's wrong to feel upset by this, yet acknowledges that it's ultimately better for him if Haffel is stronger, especially since he now considers the captain his own. With a determined stretch, Eren decides it's time to test the system himself, ready to explore its depths. He reaches out, a soft blue aura emanating from his hand, ready to engage with the mysterious system. As he sits cross-legged, a glowing orb forms in his hands, surrounded by vibrant blue energy, but his expression suggests the technique he's found is almost too good to be true. He considers the difficulty, deciding he needs to choose another cultivation technique, one that isn't quite so challenging. Yet, the system presents him with heavenly cultivation, a skill described as a treasure amongst treasures, a broken skill, leaving him utterly bewildered. He then contemplates golden wheel, another option, his gaze thoughtful. This one, he muses, might be the worst of the 5, possessing a weakness, but he believes he could still make it work, noting that only one of the 5 martial arts isn't compatible with his mana. The concept of martial arts itself seems to surprise him. He worries that if he trains his inner cultivation, his mana might become practically useless. Shaking off the concern, he decides not to dwell on it, realizing that martial arts draw too much attention and he shouldn't be showing off right now. He stares at his own reflection, a crimson aura flaring around his bare torso, wondering what had truly happened to him. He couldn't recall being like this before, a realization that only solidified his resolve, prompting a determined thought that he would simply have to train twice as hard. Later, contemplating different cultivation methods, he muses that while 2 specific techniques might appear somewhat distinct, their fundamental core principles remain the same. Standing amidst a tranquil forest, Eren decides to put his theories to the test, declaring his intention to give it a shot. His gaze fixed upwards, he focuses on a distant, almost unattainable vision, a mirage that felt both close and impossibly far. Knowing that achieving it would require thousands, even millions, of trials and errors. Yet, with extraordinary effort and a sudden burst of energy, a brilliant flash of light erupts around him, scattering vibrant blue particles. As the light subsides, a distinct silver aura begins to coalesce around his hand, a clear manifestation of his successful cultivation. Now clad in noble attire, Eren stands with a newfound determination, his sword at his hip, ready for whatever challenges lie ahead. The Grand Steelguard estate stood majestically under the clear sky, a silent witness to the unfolding drama within its walls. Inside, Eren reflected, thinking he had left certain burdens behind, but realized that was his mistake, relying on contentment when it was truly the best result. A soft rustle of fabric accompanied his descent down a grand staircase, his gaze lingering behind him as if still caught in his thoughts. At the bottom, Captain Haffel awaited him, informing him that the Lord was looking for him and needed to see him immediately, though Eren still felt he had something else to attend to. Surprised, Eren questioned if his father truly sought him, to which Haffel reiterated the Lord's summons. The captain confirmed he had been searching for him for a while, and instructed him to go straight to the Lord's office. Eren pondered the suddenness of the request, wondering why his father wished to see him so abruptly. Moments later, a soft knock echoed through the quiet hallway, as he arrived at the Lord's door. A voice from within bid him to enter, and Eren stepped inside, announcing his presence to his father, who was engrossed in writing. As he steps into the grand office, he wonders if the overseer has already arrived. The man seated at the desk is Overseer Galloway, a meticulous administrator renowned for his impressive skills. Eren considers the hierarchy, realizing that if Haffel serves as his father's right hand, then Galloway must be his left, a silent shadow of his lord's will. The weight of such a position settles upon him. He voices his confusion, noting that his father doesn't appear to be present. Eren steels his resolve, determined to give his utmost effort and uphold the honor of the Steelguard name. A voice from the desk breaks the silence, expressing approval of his attitude. Overseer Galloway regards him with a subtle, knowing smirk, a soft rustle accompanying his movement. Eren's eyes widen in sudden realization. The sheer presence of the Overseer, a heroic rank, causes his very body to stiffen. He knew the words spoken about him were true, but things weren't always as they seemed. A system message appeared, detailing the hierarchy of power, a hall he never imagined being able to pass, and the concept of a hero being called an awakened rank and heroic rank. This was a wall that left many in despair, despite countless attempts. And he had once believed he would only ever reach a certain point. He had envisioned himself as a lord, perhaps a decent one. But now, that insurmountable wall was within his sights. Even though the wall still stood tall, a confident smile played on his lips. Overseer Galloway's voice cut through his thoughts, remarking that it was unexpected. Eren, caught off guard, asked for clarification, to which Galloway replied, "Did I not tell you? There are endless other routes for you to take." Eren considered the words, finding it a bit out of place, especially after training since dawn. Eren considers that just like hunting, there isn't only one route to success. And there's no need to follow a single, predetermined course. He's taking multiple paths. This strategy, he knows, will allow him to kill 2 birds with 1 stone, though it certainly won't be easy. His focus sharpens on the 2 primary routes, the sword and the market. A memory flashes, recalling a conversation where he had dismissed the idea of someone being involved, stating they weren't the type to do such a thing. But then the shocking realization hits him. Galloway knew about Darren's secret. He turns to the Overseer, demanding to know why he had been asked about it. Eren then muses that a nail in a pocket may eventually stick out, but it's always better to keep it hidden deep within one's pants. Galloway, seemingly satisfied, agrees to trust him, but issues a stern warning. If he's lying, he will regret it. Eren's gaze is sharp as he presses his interlocutor, asking if they are truly aware of the mistake they have made. He clarifies the issue, specifying that it concerns a man named Yoon. The response confirms their knowledge, and Aaron reveals that the man's trade was guaranteed directly by the overseer's name. With a pointed look, he emphasizes that they should therefore be intimately familiar with the individual in question. Deciding to take matters into his own hands, Aaron declares his intention to meet Yolaf personally, either today or tomorrow. Meanwhile, Maki stands with a resolute expression, his posture conveying a readiness for whatever comes next. Haffel, seated with his arms crossed, questions the unusual silence. He then instructs someone to take care of the young master, acknowledging his noble status. Before turning his attention to Aaron, asking if he's preparing for the Knights Academy in 3 days. Aaron confirms that the butler is handling all the preparations. Haffel then tells him to rest, promising to contact him later, to which Aaron replies that his mere presence is enough. Haffel scoffs, then reiterates that Aaron should go rest, while he finishes his own preparations. Aaron turns and walks away, leaving the room. Aaron stood in quiet contemplation, his thoughts drifting. Suddenly, a jolt of surprise ran through him, as he realized he was a bit taken aback, wondering how someone could have escaped. Haffel observed him calmly, while Aaron still seemed caught off guard. The captain then suggested, perhaps they should take a day to process everything. But before Haffel could elaborate, he noticed Aaron had already departed, leaving him to wonder about the young master's sudden disappearance. Aaron, however, reappeared, a slight smile playing on his lips, asking if something was amiss that required a chat over tea. Haffel, his expression serious, then inquired how Aaron had come to know about Miss Gwendolyn and the Damien firm's relations. A thoughtful look crossed Aaron's face, followed by a knowing smirk, as he realized the implications of Haffel's question. Aaron's thoughts race, realizing he now understands who was truly behind the recent events, and that if his father is the one conducting the interrogation, his sister won't be able to escape the consequences. Overseer Galloway informs him that his father is indeed interrogating Miss Gwendolyn, to which Aaron responds with a knowing, almost resigned, comment about his sister getting caught. Galloway continues, explaining that the Lord holds his sister's talents in high regard, and rather than simply admonishing or punishing her, he wishes for her to realize the full weight of her actions herself. Aaron considers this, acknowledging internally that while his father might value her talent, this particular incident won't endear her to him much. He reflects on how a parent's weak spot, their child, can simply vanish from their emotional defenses. Galloway, growing suspicious of Aaron's detailed knowledge, presses him, demanding to know if someone from the firm had informed him. Aaron, with a shrug and an innocent expression, casually claims he was just guessing. Galloway's eyes widen slightly in disbelief, uttering a surprised, "Excuse me?" Overseer Galloway, still processing the young man's casual dismissal, acknowledges that if his words are true, then the Lord's decision regarding Miss Gwendolyn is indeed final. A sigh escapes him, as he accepts the situation, muttering that it is what has been accepted. Aaron, however, simply states that he doesn't care, adding that he is merely a bit of a busybody. Turning his back on the overseer, he begins to walk away, his thoughts already elsewhere. He knows there is something he must accomplish before he can return to the academy, something for the Steelguard family. It is a dangerous undertaking, but he believes he will be able to see it through. Reflecting on his past aspirations to become a decent lord, despite knowing he could never match his father's greatness, he acknowledges that he never truly started on that path, and decides it is time to begin, perhaps by exploring the affiliate market for cultivation items like sacred heart seeds or mana stones. With a flicker of red in his eyes, he wonders, are they truly insane? Aaron stares at the displayed information, a frown deepening on his face as he realizes just how exorbitant these prices truly are. He understands now why finding good items in the affiliate markets is so difficult. The average price for a year of inner cultivation is 300 coins, yet the trade volume remains low. To put it into perspective, 300 gold, the equivalent of a year of inner cultivation, is what an average first-class knight earns in 30 months. But the true kicker is that the price isn't the same for everyone, and for many, even that astronomical sum is a distant dream. Even the wealthiest families in the empire struggle to afford inner cultivation for their children, with the current value of a single year set at 300 gold. It's a luxury few can attain, a stark reality highlighted by the system's examples. Aaron sighs, knowing he can't simply dismiss the cost as too expensive, but he resolves to find a way to acquire it cheaply. He needs to save those who are suffering, even if it means selling inner cultivation himself. The system then displays a poignant example, the yellow dragon girl, her rabbit-like husband and fox-like children starving, desperately needing inner cultivation at 250 coins per year, or 2,200 coins for 10 years. Aaron examines the small, glowing blue orb in his hand, a system window confirming it as inner cultivation, though he wonders about its worth if he cannot absorb it. A moment later, 2 red system messages appear, confirming the purchase of 10 years of inner cultivation and the receipt of 200 G coins. Yet he knows that while potions and elixirs are typically better for absorption, he simply doesn't have enough time for such methods. Sitting cross-legged on his bed, he gazes at the glowing orb before him, contemplating whether he should attempt to absorb it directly. With a determined expression, he closes his eyes, the blue light of the orb reflecting softly on his face. As he begins the absorption process, the glowing blue orb floats above his hands, sending tendrils of energy into his body. A powerful blue aura erupts around him, enveloping his form as he strains to contain the influx of energy, his face contorted in concentration. Finally, the aura dissipates, leaving him utterly exhausted, his head bowed in the quiet aftermath of the intense cultivation. As morning light streams through the window, he stands, the absorption complete, ready to face the new day with his newfound strength. Still reeling from the absorption, a faint shimmer of energy surrounds him. As a system notification confirms, he has acquired an astonishing 45 years of inner cultivation, leaving faint red marks across his face from the intense process. He touches his cheek, a bewildered expression crossing his features, wondering what exactly has just happened. Before he can fully process it, another system window flashes, announcing that a sacrament has been unlocked. The window then scrolls through a dizzying list, revealing that he has gained multiple instances of the inner cultivation skill, all at level 1. The sheer volume of new skills is almost unbelievable, far beyond anything he could have imagined in his past life. Standing amidst the glowing red system windows, he feels a mix of both elation and apprehension. He knows he needs time to fully understand the implications of this power, deciding to take things one step at a time. A thought then strikes him. He remembers seeing something similar, perhaps an item related to inner cultivation, at an auction market once, hinting at its immense value. His right eye glows with a fierce red light, a surge of power manifesting as he focuses, and a realization dawns on him. Ah, I found it. Before him, nestled on a dark surface, are the mysterious yin and yang bugs. Aaron considers his options, realizing that to proceed properly, he should consult with the captain. Instead, he opens a chat interface, sending a message to an unknown recipient. Are you online? I've requested to chat because I have a few things to ask you about something. The chat log confirms his entry, with a venerable blood demon responding, prompting him to ask his question, to which Aaron replies, I wanted to ask about the yin and yang bugs on the item list. A moment of hesitation washes over him, a slight awkwardness as he admits, it's my first time using this. I'm not sure if I can ask about this. He stares at the screen, a mix of disbelief and resolve on his face, thinking, I can't believe I'm talking to a blood demon. Well, you did ask for it. Seated in a traditional room, he reflects on the interaction, acknowledging, he seemed to be a good person, but I don't know what he's like in real life. I'll have to be careful. A sinister smile spreads across the face of the mysterious figure on the other end of the chat, their long, dark red hair framing sharp features as they pose a chilling question. Do you know what's the worst thing you could ever hear from your rival or foe? Aaron, taken aback by the sudden shift in tone, can only stammer out a confused response. Kick. What the heck? What are you selling? Not really. The red-haired figure's smile widens, their eyes gleaming with dark amusement as they deliver the shocking news. You just ate the yin and yang bugs. The figure, now revealed as the young master who became a blood demon, leans in, their red eyes glowing with intense power, declaring, you are the one who has turned evil down to his roots. Come on, congratulate me. Let's talk. Aaron's mind reels, struggling to process the implications of the blood demon's words, wondering, you, even though who are you? You're saying that their parents turned into blood demons? I don't understand what I'm saying instantly. As a system window overlays his vision, confirming the entity's status as a blood demon at level 2, and revealing them to be the overseer for the dark web's black market, Aaron can only think, what's up with this guy? Is he insane? Still reeling from the unsettling conversation, Aaron watches as his chat avatar, a sinister figure with glowing red eyes, delivers another chilling message. The yin and yang bugs he sought are already consumed. The avatar continues, explaining that while small, their taste was unique, and they even increased its mana, followed by a dark, echoing laugh. Aaron's avatar then dismissively states it doesn't understand why he's looking for them or what he intends to do, but assures him it's not a complicated matter, just a small thing. The sinister persona adds that there are always those who complain about their removal, especially when used to get rid of a woman. It concludes by expressing annoyance at the complaints the exchange center receives, implying a dark history of such transactions. Aaron, processing the disturbing information, reads the final warning from the chat. Once used, removal is practically impossible, so discretion is advised. He questions the impossibility of removal. A chill runs down his spine as he realizes the true horror of the bugs, far exceeding his initial expectations. Despite the grim implications, a new resolve hardens his expression, concluding that if removal is impossible, there's no need for hesitation, and he prepares to send his next message. Meanwhile, in a grand, sunlit hall, a distinguished figure is addressed as Sir Jarvis. He walks through an opulent hall, his back to the viewer, the sunlight streaming in through grand, arched windows. His steady footsteps echo on the polished floor, carrying him deeper into the estate. Suddenly, a cheerful voice calls out, making him turn to see a young man smiling brightly, who asks if he is indeed the youngest master. The young man greets him respectfully, inquiring if his training is complete, to which he confirms he has just finished. He then expresses surprise that Captain Haffel still holds his rank, considering his age, to which the young man humbly replies that he is indeed very old. Offering a small cup, the young man suggests he drink, having anticipated his thirst after training. Taking the cup, Jarvis expresses his gratitude, remarking that it is the most delicious drink he has ever tasted. He holds the cup, a thoughtful expression on his face, as the young man watches him with a gentle smile. With a soft gulp, he finishes the drink, the last drops disappearing into his mouth. Aaron looks down at the goblet in his hand, a silent question forming in his mind. He feels a chilling premonition, a sense that something terrible will happen if he consumes the liquid. Meanwhile, Jarvis beams with an almost unsettling cheerfulness. "You like the taste, right?" Jarvis presses, his voice firm. "I don't care if you don't like it, just drink it." Unable to refuse the elder's command, Aaron forces himself to swallow the concoction, his face contorted in discomfort. The taste hits him instantly, a wave of pure revulsion, and he spits it out, exclaiming, "It's disgusting." Jarvis, unfazed by the outburst, simply asks, "How is it? I specially prepared it just for you." "That's a relief," Jarvis remarks, then adds, "Oh, I'll throw it out for the drink." Aaron, with a subtle, almost imperceptible smile, simply acknowledges, Great." Still reeling from the foul concoction, he barely manages to respond to Jarvis's inquiry about his drink, admitting he feels unwell. Jarvis, however, presses him, questioning the sincerity of his sickness. He insists, though his expression betrays his lingering discomfort. Jarvis then calmly explains that if he's truly unwell, he won't be able to teach him anything, reminding him that there's always a balance of give and take. With a slight smile, Jarvis shifts the conversation, asking if he has a request of him. Internally, the young man fumes, wishing Jarvis had simply been direct instead of forcing him to consume the repulsive drink. Jarvis encourages him to speak his mind, and after a moment of hesitation, he resolves to tell him what he wants. The scene shifts to a grand estate, as Jarvis begins to outline his proposal. He continues, his voice calm and measured, promising that if he follows the path laid out, he will achieve his goals, prompting Aaron to ask if he can demonstrate his magic. Jarvis, with a hand extended, expresses his reluctance to display his aura to others, yet agrees to make an exception for Aaron, who watches intently, his thoughts racing with anticipation. With a decisive, "Very well," then, Jarvis begins to draw a long, elegant sword from its sheath, instructing Aaron to step back. As the blade clears its scabbard, Jarvis's eyes begin to glow with an intense, ethereal light, causing Aaron to widen his own in surprise. A faint, shimmering aura emanates from Jarvis, and around him, translucent, spectral figures begin to coalesce from the air. He plants the sword firmly into the earth, and the ground around it glows with an otherworldly light, swirling with glowing particles as the spectral forms grow more distinct. The aura around Jarvis intensifies, swirling powerfully as the spectral figures fully manifest, taking on the clear forms of armored warriors. Aaron stares, his voice barely a whisper as he recognizes the spectral forms as knights. Jarvis confirms their identity, revealing them to be the Steelguard Knights, once his most trusted retainers. Aaron's expression shifts to one of profound astonishment, realizing the true depth of Jarvis's magical power. Aaron Steelguard couldn't help but admit his surprise, confessing that he'd be lying if he said he wasn't impressed, though he quickly added that the young master was truly nothing special. Meanwhile, Haffel, the captain of the Steelguard Knights, accepted the compliment with a humble smile, remarking that he was flattered, but compared to the Lord, he was nothing. A thought then crossed Aaron's mind, something that reminded him of a past conversation. He recalled Haffel explaining that while there were many aura users, there was a specific reason why he was the youngest, reiterating that it was because he was the youngest. Aaron, now looking directly at the captain, questioned when he had truly come alive, wondering if it had taken him 10 years to obtain his current form if he had started earlier. Haffel, with a serious expression, simply stated that he didn't think he had ever truly been alive, revealing his true nature. He was a golem. Aaron's eyes widened in shock, exclaiming that it was impossible for a golem to be alive, before a sudden realization dawned on him. That was why Haffel could be formed by the Lord's power. He stood in thoughtful silence, processing this profound revelation. He pauses, considering the weight of Haffel's words, feeling as though his own perspective might be too narrow, too much like a teenager's view of an adult's complex feelings. A slow, deliberate clap echoes through the air, snapping him back to attention as the sound continues. Haffel's voice cuts through his thoughts, asking if he has finally grasped the truth. He continues, a hint of amusement in his tone, wondering if Aaron has finally caught him. Aaron's thoughts race, connecting the dots. The will of the Lord, the aura Haffel possesses. It all makes sense now, it's all connected. He considers Haffel the strongest aura user, yet also the calmest golem he has ever encountered. Walking beside him, he wonders at the surprising revelation of a golem who simply states his existence as realistic, and can't help but feel a pang of pity, imagining if everyone knew his true nature. He looks at Haffel, his expression still thoughtful as he asks what the captain means by his earlier statement about identity. Instead of answering directly, Haffel turns to him, a subtle shift in his demeanor as he poses a question of his own, inquiring about his identity. The captain's gaze sharpens, his voice dropping to a serious tone as he directly asks if he is the Empire's spy. A look of utter disbelief crosses his face, a soft, confused "what?" escaping his lips. Haffel, however, simply smiles, holding up a finger in a dismissive gesture, suggesting that the idea of him being a spy is a bit too far. He continues, his expression still light, wondering aloud why everyone reacts with such pressure. Still looking surprised, he quickly refutes the implication, insisting he is not some kind of maniac. Haffel then turns his head slightly, addressing someone off-panel, asking Jarvis if he agrees with his assessment. A hand enters the frame, and a voice responds with a simple, no. As the conversation continues, Haffel's gaze sharpens, and he utters a name, Harv's Duracle. His expression unwavering, he declares, mission failed. The knight's serious demeanor leaves no room for doubt, his words hanging heavy in the air. Aaron listens intently, a subtle, knowing smirk playing on his lips as he processes the implications. Haffel presses further, questioning if the failure was on purpose, or if this entire situation was also a trap. He asserts his own integrity, reminding Aaron that he possesses the pride of a knight. Aaron, with Jarvis silently observing in the background, calmly denies the accusation, stating, no, I'm saying I'm not. Haffel clarifies his point, insisting, so you're saying you're a spy? To which Aaron firmly replies, no, I'm saying you're wrong. I'm not. Aaron's expression hardens slightly as he challenges, was that a threat? Haffel quickly dismisses the notion, no. He feels an unsettling presence, a discomfort that lingers, yet he knows there is only one person here who evokes such a strong reaction. As the whispers of the forest seem to echo his unease, he considers the potential trouble he could find himself in. Unable to decipher the man's true intentions, he wonders if this is merely an attempt to provoke him. A sudden thumping in his chest confirms his resolve, as the certainty of his own name becomes the catalyst for action. With a decisive surge of energy, he declares that enough is enough. He moves with impossible speed, a blur against the forest backdrop, his drawn blade arcing through the air as he executes a dynamic, mid-flight maneuver. Haffel and Jarvis stare in disbelief, realizing he has vanished without a trace. Haffel stares at the empty space where Aaron had just been, a bewildered expression crossing his face. He mutters in disbelief, convinced he had landed a blow before the boy disappeared. Suddenly, streaks of vibrant blue energy begin to tear through the air, drawing his gaze upward. The energy swirls around him, causing him to recoil in surprise. Both Haffel and Jarvis watch, stunned, as the blue light intensifies. A sharp gasp escapes Haffel's lips, his eyes wide with shock. He recognizes the overwhelming power, identifying it as a potent aura. Then, in a flash of brilliant blue, Aaron reappears, a glowing sword clutched in his hand, surrounded by an intense, crackling aura. He lands in a low crouch, his eyes fixed forward, the blue energy still swirling around him. Aaron, still reeling from the recent events, confronts Haffel, demanding to know why he would speak ill of his father, calling him a terrible person. He passionately defends his father, the man who taught him everything about being a knight and a noble, recalling his words that a noble must always walk a different path, a path he still remembers clearly. His thoughts drift to a memory of himself on a grand throne, pondering if his father was truly the one behind the creation of Leiskin and Levadon, two entities of great significance. A younger version of himself stands resolute, clad in different attire and gripping a sword. His internal monologue continuing with a fierce resolve that others need not worry about the outcome of his choices, for he will bear the consequences. He acknowledges the immense stakes, recognizing that his very life is on the line, a heavy burden to carry. Back in the present, Aaron looks down, a flicker of his past self appearing in his mind's eye as he finally declares, fine. His expression hardens with renewed determination as he repeats the word, fine. Yet, a moment later, a look of frustration crosses his face as he chastises his own past ideals. How foolish. He unleashes a powerful shout, green energy swirling around him as he initiates a devastating attack. With a sigh of intense effort, he pushes forward, the momentum carrying him into the fray. His technique, the breaking fist of despair, begins to manifest. Dust and debris erupt around him as he coils his body for a devastating strike. His fist crackles with raw, destructive energy, ready to connect. He drives the powerful blow directly into an opponent's midsection, sending them reeling. A look of fierce determination hardens his features as he presses the assault. He unleashes another devastating skill, the World Breaker. The sheer force of the attack distorts the very landscape, a blinding light consuming everything. The ground itself shatters with a deafening roar as a blinding explosion of light and debris erupts skyward, marking the devastating impact of the World Breaker. Aaron Steelguard moved with a soft whoosh through the dense, misty forest, his sword held ready as he navigated the unfamiliar terrain. A faint rustle echoed through the trees, and he paused, scanning his surroundings with a keen gaze. From above, the vast, rocky expanse of the forest stretched out, revealing him as a small figure amidst the swirling mists, with another distant presence barely visible in the far reaches. The ground beneath him shimmered with an ethereal glow, tiny particles of light drifting upwards from the jagged rocks. He stared, a gasp escaping his lips as he realized, it's much more than I thought. A strange sensation, a faint clunk against his chest, drew his attention downwards, a subtle shift in his own being. His eyes widened in shock as he questioned, what is this? The realization dawned on him, a profound mystery unfolding as he wondered, how was he able to hide such skill? Still reeling from the mysterious energy he sensed, Aaron finds himself on the ground, a desperate denial escaping his lips, unable to accept the implications of what he's experiencing. Meanwhile, an older, gray-haired man, accompanied by a younger subordinate, calmly asserts that what they are discussing is not a skill at all, much to the younger man's confusion. Yet, standing alone, his gaze fixed on an unseen point, Eren firmly believes it is indeed an innate skill. Later, slumped against the cold stone, a sense of utter defeat washes over him, whispering that this might truly be the end. As he lies there, the older man from before looms over him, revealing that the Empress has been searching for something called this sacred tree and demands to know who informed the young man of its existence. Eren's eyes widen in surprise as the man condescendingly remarks that he clearly doesn't grasp the gravity of the situation. But a flicker of defiance ignites in Eren's gaze as he echoes the man's words, questioning the assumption that he lacks understanding. Walking away from the older man, his thoughts now clear, Eren realizes the skill he sensed is intrinsically linked to this sacred tree and resolves to find it himself. He considers the implications of his current situation, realizing one must always be cautious when operating in unfamiliar territory. The man before him possesses a wealth of information and is not merely a spy, but also skilled in mind control magic. He's an A-tier operative, a formidable opponent. That explains his silence, and it's even more unsettling given his connection to Steelguard. The interrogator's voice cuts through his thoughts, dismissing him as nothing more than a replaceable tool. He asks if Eren truly believes the Emperor would care for him after this. With a feigned sigh, the man claims Eren is making him tear up, adding that this defiance is only making things harder. But Eren's resolve hardens, declaring that he will endure any torment, even if they rip off his nails or tear off his limbs. The interrogator is taken aback by this unexpected defiance, wondering what he should do next against such an unyielding spirit. Suddenly, a surge of power emanates from Eren, a clear manifestation of magic. Eren calmly explains that the creature before them is Yun, while the one his interrogator consumed was Yang. As he speaks, he brings a small, unidentifiable object to his mouth, continuing to clarify that the one he holds is Yun, and the one the green-haired man ate was indeed Yang, causing the interrogator's eyes to glow with a sudden, intense green light. The realization hits the green-haired man like a bolt of lightning, his mind reeling as he repeats the horrifying truth. He ate one of them, despite being told it was good for his health. A vivid image of the fluffy white creature flashes in his mind, his expression contorting in utter disgust and shock. Overwhelmed by the revelation, the green-haired man collapses to the ground, clutching his stomach as a guttural cry of distress escapes him, while Eren watches him passively. Eren, completely unfazed by the man's distress, calmly advises him to settle down, assuring him it was merely a snake and that he had likely already filled his stomach with it. The green-haired man, still reeling from the shock, can only stammer out a confused question, demanding to know what Eren means. Eren continues his explanation, likening the two creatures to a pair of twins, including the one the man just consumed. He then begins to elaborate on the implications, suggesting that both the good and bad aspects will be. Kneeling in disbelief, the interrogator struggles to process the truth, his mind reeling from the realization that he had consumed a living creature, a being he never imagined could exist. Deciding to test the limits of this revelation, he muses that experimentation is better than endless speculation, wondering if a slight touch would suffice. With a needle in hand, he prepares to make contact with the other creature. The sharp point pierces the pink, segmented flesh of the creature, eliciting a disturbing, squelching sound. A wave of profound disgust washes over the interrogator, his face contorting as the sensation of the creature's interior assaults his senses. He recoils violently, unable to contain his visceral reaction to the unsettling contact. Meanwhile, Eren Steelguard continues his explanation, his form glowing with a crimson aura, stating that both the good and bad aspects of these creatures will ultimately become one, and that he himself will become a prisoner of his own strength, promising to reveal more. He elaborates on the experience of touching the creature, describing how even a light poke makes the good and bad aspects feel as if they are being separated by countless spears. The interrogator continues his cruel experiment, dropping the creature into cold water, a sensation he explains is like being torn apart by countless spears. He then places it near fire, describing the feeling as worse than being burned naked on a snowy mountain. The creature's agony is profound, its body feeling as if it's being ripped apart, its wounds impossible to heal. Yet, the interrogator dismisses it all as mere illusion, a trick of the mind, claiming these creatures are nothing more than useless bugs. A chilling smile spreads across his face, but he quickly turns to Eren, asking for his thoughts on the matter. Meanwhile, Raymond Laiskin, having received information from an interrogation, sits in contemplation, echoing the interrogator's earlier sentiment that they are just useless bugs. Eren stands before him, and Raymond asks what he wants. With a confident smirk, Raymond declares his name, stating that the Empire fears him. Long ago, the King of Navarro, leading the Imperial Patrol, wielded a mythical sword that was unrivaled. It was a legendary knight who halted the Empire's advance, the very man who brought relief to the land. He single-handedly prevented the Empire from conquering the entire continent, earning him the title, the Guardian of Navarro, the Heart of Steel. This revered title echoed through history. Raymond Laiskin continues, revealing the knight's identity as Eren Steelguard's father, a heroic figure, though he dismisses his fame as insignificant to the Empire's fear. He claims to know nothing of him, suggesting the knight is merely a little bit famous and not someone the Empire would truly fear. He explains that the Imperial Council recognized him as the one who ended a civil war and became a legendary hero, but then adds that something far more important lies beneath the surface. Raymond then ponders to himself, questioning if these heroic deeds are merely the acts of a mythical man, or if there's a deeper, unsettling coincidence at play. He dismisses the idea of pure chance, concluding that such a belief is impossible. As Aaron looks on in shock, Raymond declares there must be something inherent within the Steelguard bloodline itself. Aaron Steelguard stands, a thoughtful expression on his face, considering the Emperor's prediction. He looks down, faint magical particles shimmering around him, as he continues to ponder the weight of the prophecy. His gaze remains distant, lost in the depths of his mind, as he wonders about the spy who observed them. A memory flashes through his mind, showing a younger Aaron speaking with Jarvis, who asks if he truly believes he can reach the level of his father. The memory lingers, Jarvis's words echoing, questioning if he could ever truly measure up. The younger Aaron replies, asserting that even if he couldn't be as great as his father, he still aspired to become at least a decent lord. The present Aaron, his eyes sharp with a newfound resolve, acknowledges that was indeed what he thought at the time. His expression hardens, the weight of his past aspirations contrasting with his current reality, as he concludes, until now. Aaron acknowledges Raymond's success, but his thoughts quickly turn inward, questioning the true objective. He dismisses the idea that his father's legacy weighs him down, asserting that it's an unforgettable part of him. A red aura flares around him as he declares his independence from any inherited path. Yet, a deeper concern lingers, the Empire's watchful gaze still fixed upon him. His expression hardens with a newfound resolve. The symbolic shield of the Steelguards appears, marking the beginning of a new chapter, a new story for their legacy. With glowing eyes, he vows to forge his own path, a legacy he had never before dared to envision. He reflects on his past powerlessness, determined to prevent such helplessness from occurring in this new life. His gaze sharpens, knowing he must now forge a completely new path, a new story for himself. Having returned, Haffel stands in a quiet chamber, his expression troubled. He kneels respectfully, announcing his return to his lord. Yet, a strange sensation washes over him, a disorienting dizziness whenever he looks upon his master. His memories feel fractured, unable to coalesce, as if a crucial piece of information is missing from his mind. He questions the nature of this affliction, wondering if it's some form of demon of the mind. With a sudden realization, he looks up, addressing the figure before him as "My lord, it's Cowloy." He remains kneeling, his gaze fixed on the presence before him. Before him stands Cowloy, an elderly man cloaked in dark robes, his long gray hair flowing from beneath the hood. Aaron Steelguard receives an apology for the interruption to his training, as Jarvis explains that he felt it was something important to convey immediately. Turning to face the messenger, Aaron inquires about the nature of the urgent news. Jarvis reveals the subject of his concern, the youngest daughter of the merchant Yuli. Aaron, seemingly unfazed, questions if this is truly a matter worthy of such immediate worry. Jarvis hesitates, then clarifies the true gravity of the situation. The merchant's daughter has uncovered the Empire's spy. The revelation strikes Aaron with sudden impact, his expression shifting to one of profound surprise. Later, at a magnificent palace, its white spires reaching towards the sky, Haffel kneels before Aaron's Steelguard on the grand steps, delivering a report with solemn deference. Aaron, surrounded by his retinue, including Haffel, listens intently to the unfolding developments. A body lies still on the ground, dark blood staining the earth around it. The crimson splatters tell a silent, brutal story. As Raymond Layskin looks down with a somber expression, confirming the grim truth, the man is dead. Aaron Steelguard kneels beside the fallen figure, his voice laced with regret, explaining that despite his best efforts, he couldn't save him. Standing now, Raymond inquires about Aaron's own condition, who assures him he is fine for the moment, having healed himself first. With a nod, Raymond then demands a full account, expecting an explanation for the grim scene. He identifies the deceased as Yulaf, the renowned mana crystal merchant. A close look at the merchant's face confirms his identity. As Raymond states, he can recognize him, having traveled to Lehite specifically to meet Yulaf. He had explained his situation, and in response, Yulaf had abandoned both the guild and the city, leaving him with an unsettling feeling. A woman with lavender hair had questioned him, wondering aloud, "It's strange. What's the point of spying on a merchant?" Kneeling over the fallen figure, he recalled his genuine fondness for the man, who had been kind and good, before he had drawn his sword. The question lingered in his mind. How did you know he was a spy? The answer was simple, as he presented a sealed envelope, declaring, "It's right here." He handed the crucial document to Jarvis, who accepted it with a grave expression. Jarvis carefully examined the contents, his silence speaking volumes. A collective gasp rippled through the assembled crowd, their faces etched with shock and disbelief. Amidst the uproar, Raymond's gaze remained steady, his expression resolute. He listens intently, his brow furrowed as the words sink in, then responds, "You said." A look of genuine surprise crosses his face as he asks, "Oh really? What does it say?" He turns his head slightly, a hint of disbelief in his voice. "Excuse me?" Holding up the document, He explains that the Empire's top secret information often looks like this, adding that he'd seen it a few times before. His confusion deepens, wondering aloud, what? What if it's just a simple copy? He looks away, a flicker of unease crossing his features. His expression hardens, his gaze sharp as he states, "It looks like you don't want this to be sent to the Empire." He quickly denies it, explaining that the Empire is a pain to handle, his words carrying a hint of exasperation. Considering his words, Raymond asks thoughtfully, "Is that really why?" Raymond confirms his understanding, acknowledging the sensitive nature of the information. He then reveals a crucial detail, mentioning his eldest son. A different scene unfolds, a crowd of people bustling through a street, as a voice reflects on the mindset required of a true leader. The narration continues, emphasizing that a lord must never harbor such a mindset. Meanwhile, Aaron Steelguard stands, offering a cynical truth. If something doesn't make sense, it's probably crooked, and that is the truth of the world. He looks down, his expression unreadable, as he acknowledges the understanding. Later, Aaron walks away from Javis, who dismisses a matter as nothing, just a minor doctor, before instructing an overseer to call for a physician. Javis and Haffel stand respectfully as Aaron passes, addressing him as my lord. Aaron's face contorts in a flash of anger, a thought echoing in his mind. Damn it, Arun, you brat. Haffel, clad in a simple white hooded cloak, questions the young man before him, wondering if he might be overreacting. From his bed, the young man replies that he doesn't expect anyone to show up there. He continues, dismissing his injury as merely a small scar on his body, but then questions if Haffel believes it to be that bad. As Javis joins them, Haffel reveals the Lord's order to keep the matter a secret, while Javis questions if Haffel intends to go alone, offering to accompany him. Haffel then shifts the topic, asking how long the young man plans to meditate, calling his current state a sorry sight. He suggests the young man should take a look in the mirror. Elsewhere, Raymond Layskin reacts with surprise, uttering a single word, happy. Javis looks at the young man with a questioning gaze, wondering if everything has truly returned to normal. Aaron, however, thinks to himself that it was all just natural and nothing was wrong, believing he was feeling better thanks to his own efforts. He then observes a meticulously crafted item, acknowledging its quality and its potential to deceive the Lord. Javis repeats his observation, stating that Aaron seems to be recovering, but then questions why he shouldn't have done what he did, prompting Aaron to ask for clarification. A slight smirk plays on Aaron's lips as he echoes the question, why? He explains that it's because there's no other face like it, then pauses, as if questioning his own statement. The mask, intricately detailed, seems to hum with a subtle energy, a silent testament to its unique craftsmanship. Javis, still seated, asks if Aaron's words are true, to which the young man replies that he did it because he likes the Lord. Aaron's gaze drifts away, his internal thoughts echoing his declaration, but then a deeper, more unsettling question arises. And what about me? Still recovering in bed, he hesitates, then asks, sir, may I ask you a question? Javis, standing nearby, encourages him, why hesitate? Go for it. Sitting on the edge of the bed, Javis reassures him, I'm here to help you heal. Aaron looks at him intently, asking, is there any way you can avoid showing it? Sitting up, he continues, at your level, the chapel is cornered instead. Javis responds with a confident smile, I am the real protagonist. Aaron looks away, a thoughtful silence hanging between them, before he finally speaks. His expression shifts to annoyance as he retorts, stop being cocky. A close-up reveals his troubled gaze as he murmurs, right? Holding a small vial, he observes its contents, concluding, you're in a hurry, aren't you? Not the chapel. He observes the small, segmented creature before him, a faint sound escaping his lips. Turning his attention to an unseen presence, he asks how he is expected to help, a small, almost mocking smile playing on his face. A moment later, his expression shifts, a thought crossing his mind. Could he truly trust this individual, this crooked-faced thief? He laughs, realizing the question was rhetorical. In a memory, Aaron stands in a bedroom, asking Levidan Steelguard if he was the one who wrote something specific, to which Levidan confirms he did, exactly as instructed. Back in the present, Aaron's gaze sharpens, a soft rustling sound accompanying his focused attention. The narrative shifts to a historical account of Levidan Steelguard, revealing that the first of his name was born with inherent weaknesses, both in body and mind. He was so frail, he couldn't even properly wield a sword. While some things may have changed over time, the current Levidan Steelguard is said to be no different in his fundamental weakness. Returning to Aaron's present thoughts, he muses that while this information is good, there's still something more to consider. He finds the directness of the report a bit much, feeling it's biased, and that only fools would accept it at face value. Not wanting to accuse Javis directly, he clarifies that he isn't calling him a liar, but reminds him of his own advice to be as careful as possible. Lying in bed, Aaron lets out a sigh, finding the whole situation increasingly suspicious. A sudden realization dawns on him. Javis might actually be toying with him. He then articulates his understanding of deception, explaining that one must hide lies within the truth, otherwise, a straightforward approach only leads to being caught. Javis, however, counters, warning that Aaron himself could be caught, then offers to elaborate, assuring him it's not about his social standing. Instead, Jarvis bluntly states that Aaron is simply an idiot in school, leaving him utterly surprised and questioning the meaning behind such a harsh assessment. With a calm demeanor, Jarvis dismisses him, instructing him to leave and to try not to get caught. Still processing the conversation, Aaron agrees, rising from the bed. He ponders if a certain individual will become an obstacle, unsure if he can truly place his trust in them. Considering an alliance with the Empire once more, he muses that he could simply eliminate the Een bug if necessary. Ultimately, he decides the potential reward outweighs the inherent danger. A sharp sound from the door pulls him from his thoughts, making him look up in surprise. A voice from the doorway asks about his well-being. Recognizing the figure, he exclaims his father's name, relieved to hear he is doing well. Levadon steps into the room, noting the time since their last meeting, while Aaron, still concerned, asks if his father is truly all right. His father reassures him with a simple affirmation, expressing his own happiness at Aaron's apparent health. Levadon then mentions contemplating a delay in their journey, but Aaron quickly insists that he is perfectly fine. Aaron, still processing his earlier thoughts, listens as Haffel advises him to take it easy and not overexert himself. A soft sound accompanies Haffel's gesture as he continues to speak, his words carrying a gentle, almost fatherly concern. He then announces his departure, promising to return soon, to which Aaron simply replies that he will be waiting. Haffel, however, seems to linger, his expression thoughtful as he internally notes that they had never engaged in such personal conversations before. Aaron, for his part, feels a similar awkwardness, admitting to himself that he truly cannot get used to such interactions. Haffel then turns back, a slight surprise in his voice, asking if something is wrong, as Aaron appears a little yellowish. Aaron looks away, a nervous sound escaping him, wondering what he is even supposed to say in these kinds of situations. Haffel, his face partially obscured by shadow, continues, mentioning that the knights have been out all night. He then asks if Aaron is ready, explaining that the knights' extended absence meant they were a little longer than expected. A captured spy reveals that he was disguised as a merchant from the Empire, and Haffel expresses relief that they managed to apprehend him before any critical information could be leaked. He then adds that Aaron's father now knows the Empire is harboring steel guards. Aaron, sitting beside him, acknowledges Haffel's thanks, but humbly replies, it was nothing at all. Haffel's expression turns serious as he urges Aaron to be more careful from now on. Aaron looks down, a hint of fear in his eyes, admitting that he is still a little bit afraid, knowing that his father could lose his precious son to a spy. He stands, arms crossed, a pensive expression settling on his face. Haffel's thoughts drift to his past, recalling a father who was never one for kind words, a man who had always been cold-hearted and strict. So different, he muses, from the person he has become today. A voice cuts through his reverie as Aaron approaches him, asking, "Person?" The sudden question startles him, eliciting a soft, surprised sound. He remembers every face, every moment of despair, and the collapse of their family during that time. Yet, amidst the faces of those present, his father was conspicuously absent. The only one missing was the very man who should have been most concerned about him, the one who was supposed to be his father. He was the sole individual who simply did not care. Haffel's thoughts lingered on his father, a man who had always been cold and strict, yet everything they said about him was true. He recalled a recent conversation, hearing Aaron's voice, saying, "Father, you're the one who should be extra careful." Haffel's expression tightened, a silent acknowledgement of the words. He had been listening, unobserved, as Aaron continued to speak to their father, his own thoughts echoing, "And no, I was just listening to what you told my father." Aaron, oblivious to Haffel's presence, had simply advised, "Always keep that in mind." The memory faded, leaving Haffel with a somber expression. He had always aspired to be a decent lord, even if he knew he could never reach the heights of his father, a man whose image now appeared in his mind, stern and unyielding. He would prevent the worst from happening with his own hands, a stark contrast to the man who had been absent during the collapse of their family. Haffel resolved, his gaze firm, "I will prevent the worst from happening with my own hands." Haffel, standing before a radiant light, affirms his commitment to doing his utmost. Meanwhile, Aaron, facing him, expresses his profound gratitude, his voice filled with excitement at finally gaining access to the inner secret storage. He elaborates on the arduous process, explaining that he had to wait in line for a considerable time and even secure permission from the higher-ups that very morning. As Haffel remains silent, Aaron questions his intense fascination with the inner secret storage. Surprised by the lack of reaction, Aaron asks if he isn't disappointed. Haffel admits he will be disappointed, especially considering that a Steel Guard knight was granted the right to enter. He clarifies that this knight is the only one allowed into the inner secret storage, and is to be taught by the heroic ranking knight. A grand, armored figure stands before a throne, embodying the esteemed knight. Aaron, still conversing with Haffel, states his unhappiness about the situation, but then muses that he must simply be lucky. Haffel continues to express his reservations, stating that he cannot understand why a Steel Guard knight would be granted such exclusive access to the inner secret storage, especially one who is to be trained by a heroic ranking knight. Aaron, however, simply replies that he is not happy about it either. With a final instruction to take his time looking around, Haffel assures him he will be waiting outside. Aaron confirms he will not be late, a faint smile playing on his lips. Stepping into the grand, arched hallway, he muses to himself that it has been a long time since he last saw this place. This was the inner secret storage, a place where even the Steel Guard Knights had to wait for years to gain access, and only after receiving permission from the Lord. He confirms his access, a subtle sound of affirmation escaping him. He reflects on the sheer luck of his situation, considering he was to be trained by a heroic ranking knight. The shield, a symbol of the inner realm, glows faintly, its presence marking the entrance to a place of immense significance. Aaron Steelguard steps further into the grand hall, his gaze falling upon a display stand, knowing that not even a legendary or heroic ranking knight would typically be granted access to such a place. He considers the hidden intentions of those who might try to steal something from his family, realizing that what he holds is a shield, not a sword. After understanding the king's true intentions, his grandfather chose to store this item away here, a decision made even though he did not receive anything from the king in return. As a matter of fact, his grandfather had led the victory on the war, creating many heroic achievements, and since he was a knight of the Steel Guard, he was loved and supported by the public. If he had truly wanted to, he could have taken everything for himself and become an emperor, but he decided instead to stay loyal until his last moments. The rewards he received were nowhere near as valuable as his heroic achievements. And it's not like he can sell this because it's too old, he muses, looking at the ancient shield. These, he realizes, are the real treasures. He understands that his grandfather's equipment, imbued with such history and loyalty, holds far more value than any material wealth. Even the most legendary sword, gleaming under a dark, star-filled sky, holds no meaning if it cannot be utilized. He muses, his eyes glowing with a faint red light as a system prompt appears, asking if he will proceed. The current inventory, a dimensional gate, is nearly full, its capacity at 753 out of 1,000. Aaron realizes the sword's disproportionate size makes it impossible to store as is, prompting him to consider an upgrade. With a determined expression, he decides it is time to enhance his dimensional storage, his hand hovering over the glowing interface. He confidently states that his extensive knowledge of transactions makes this a trivial matter, a simple task for him. The system confirms his inventory has reached level 2, then prompts him to raise it again for a cost of 1,000 gold, to which he readily agrees. However, his expression shifts to surprise as the system informs him he does not possess enough gold, leaving him momentarily stunned. Despite the level increase, the inventory capacity remains the same, with the cost of 1,000 gold still displayed, a stark reminder of his current financial limitation. He gazes at the formidable blade, its presence almost too much for the small room, wondering if he could even store such a magnificent weapon in his inventory. Holding the sword, he considers its immense power, a legendary artifact known as the Slayer's Heaven, a blade that grows stronger with every kill, capable of absorbing the very essence of its victims to enhance its wielder's abilities, and he knows he must check his formal inventory to see if it's possible to contain it. His eyes glow with a faint red light as he considers the sword's potential, a weapon that could truly elevate his power beyond imagination. A slight smile plays on his lips, his glowing eyes reflecting the blade's allure, knowing that with this, he could finally achieve the strength he craved. Settling down with the sword across his lap, he muses aloud, his curiosity piqued by the weapon's unique properties. With a satisfied expression, his eyes still faintly glowing, he confirms the sword's successful storage within his dimensional inventory. Back in his room, he reviews his system interface, the dimensional storage now confirmed at level 2, reflecting the successful upgrade he had previously achieved, the reason for his earlier inventory struggles now resolved. He considers the grave implications. If a certain transaction book were to fall into the hands of his siblings, he might be doomed to repeat the very mistakes that plagued his past life. The mere thought ignites a fierce resolve within him, knowing he must eliminate any trace of it. Aaron Steelguard, deep within a vast library, mutters to himself, wondering if what he seeks isn't here. He's looked everywhere, but the item remains elusive. A thought crosses his mind. Could it be hidden somewhere within these ancient tomes? Recalling his past life, he considers the possibility, and as expected, a new realization dawns on him. His frustration mounts, unable to locate it anywhere. When his gaze sharpens, sensing something, he reaches into a narrow crevice, just a bit more, feeling for the hidden object. With a triumphant cry, he pulls it out, only to be utterly shocked by what he holds. Aaron Steelguard sits on the floor, examining the large, dark object he has found, noting its considerable size with a quiet sigh of relief. His eyes widen in surprise, a sudden realization dawning on him. He holds the smooth, black, egg-shaped item in his hand, wondering if it could simply be an ostrich egg. But as he continues to examine it, a deeper understanding begins to form, a sense of having uncovered something significant. He muses to himself, deciding that whatever its true nature, it holds no immediate concern for him. With a faint glow emanating from the object, he resolves to leave it exactly where he found it. He rises to his feet, the discovery solidifying a crucial piece of knowledge for him. He realizes that the transaction book was not the only unique item, his own dimensional transaction box being the sole true one. Aaron Steelguard stands lost in thought, his mind racing through the implications of his past life and the unique dimensional transaction box he possesses. He ponders the crucial questions that remain unanswered: how to return to the past, and how to truly engage with the dimensional trade system. There is only one logical explanation he can conceive: a single thread connecting his fragmented memories. It is the legendary, glowing artifact known as the Bookmark of Wish. Yet, a crucial detail eludes him, causing a pang of distress. What exactly did he wish for before his death? The memory is shrouded in immense pain, making it difficult to recall clearly, but he believes he wished for another chance. He also remembers wanting to initiate dimensional trading, but the Bookmark of Wish can only be used once, a fact that now causes him to hesitate, unsure of the full truth. The pieces of his memory simply do not align, leaving him in a state of deep confusion. Frustration mounts as he finds himself unable to recall anything further, questioning if his current state impairs his ability to use any dimensional transaction books at all. A sense of relief washes over him, as he realizes his previous discomfort was for naught. The knowledge he now possesses is all that truly matters. With this new perspective, he understands he can now acquire something else, pondering what that might be. As he begins to walk away, his father's lack of specific limitations on him still resonates in his mind. His thoughts then drift to the dimensional transaction box. But he quickly dismisses a notion, deciding it would be crossing a line. The multiple dimension book remains securely stored away in his inner reserves. He reflects on the incredible power it once offered, but expresses a reluctance to use it again, instead considering his grandfather's notes as a guide to finding other dimensions. Continuing his walk, his footsteps echo as he progresses. Aaron looks down, a soft sound of surprise escaping him. He spots a small, dark orb on the floor, wondering aloud why it isn't in his inventory. Picking it up, he mutters that he should have kept it there, as it's not like the object can move on its own. A slight smile plays on his lips as he considers the possibility that perhaps it does have a will of its own. Standing before an old, ornate storage chest, he acknowledges that in this place, weird things can indeed happen. The orb in his hand begins to glow with a swirling, dark energy, making him wonder if it's also capable of showing dimensions. His eyes flash with a red glow as he decides to find out, intending to place the orb in his inventory to access its information. However, a system message appears, frustratingly vague, only stating possible, warby of specifics not provided. His glowing eyes widen in disbelief as he exclaims, "Are you kidding me? It might as well not show me anything in the first place." Aaron, still holding the mysterious orb, finds himself questioning its nature, wondering if it refuses to reveal its secrets to someone of his perceived rank. He considers that if even the most fundamental information monitoring system fails to identify it, then the orb must originate from a much higher, more significant source. Confirming his suspicions, he realizes it's not from any known end or god systems. Frustrated by the lack of information, he wonders how else he might uncover its secrets, deciding to activate his skill, the Eye of Providence. As a powerful red aura erupts around him and his eyes begin to glow, the orb in his hands pulses with an equally intense crimson light. His gaze sharpens, his glowing eye widening in disbelief as the skill reveals something utterly shocking. Staring at the orb with a mixture of awe and terror, he can only stammer out a bewildered question. The orb continues to glow intensely in his hand, its revealed nature leaving him speechless. He clearly remembers this day, the day he first went to the academy. As the grand gates of the Steel Guard estate opened, a chorus of voices welcomed the returning figure, announcing his arrival to all present. Among the onlookers, two men exchanged cynical remarks, one questioning if he would return any wiser, the other dismissing the possibility of any real change. A woman nearby, her expression stern, muttered that it would be better for the Steel Guards if he never came back at all. Despite the undercurrent of negativity, the moment still felt like a grand celebration to him. The crowd's murmurs were a mix of disdain and cautious optimism, some branding him wasted and good for nothing, while others quietly defended him. Turning to face them, Aaron questioned their harsh judgment, reminding them it had only been a few weeks since their last encounter. He reflected on his past, once avoided by everyone, now burdened with the unexpected role of the Steel Guard's hope. A quiet, resolute smile touched his lips as he declared that he was proud. As he began to walk away, a woman, his sister, called out to him, asking if he was truly leaving, her voice tinged with concern for her hurt brother. As he prepared for his journey, his sister offered a gentle smile, noting that it would be 4 years until their next meeting. Standing before him, she urged him, "Don't forget to write to us sometimes, okay?" He simply replied, "Okay." Her voice filled with earnest advice, she reminded him that health takes priority, to always eat his meals, wash himself, and never be rude. He confirmed he understood, though a slight hesitation in his voice made her reassure him, "I know that you'll be fine." Despite her words, a flicker of worry crossed her features, muttering that she couldn't help but fret, perhaps because he was the youngest. Then, extending her hand, she held out a small pouch, prompting him to question, "My hand?" As his fingers brushed against the soft material, he murmured, "This is..." He took the small, unassuming gift. And with a bright, loving smile, his sister declared it a small present. Why would he need money at the academy? Aaron wonders, as his sister replies, "I heard from our mother that it always comes in handy." She continues, "I have enough." If I exchange this, I can make a group out of it. That's what I want to say, Eren responds, but his sister simply states, don't mention it. Hold up, he thinks, surprised. My sister sure has a lot of money. Huh? He murmurs, looking down. It's not there. He realizes, the ruby pendant that she always wore? Eren sits, holding the familiar pendant, a thoughtful expression on his face as his sister watches him. The ornate carriage glides through the streets, its golden accents gleaming under the sun. Inside, a simple sack rests among the plush furnishings, a stark contrast to the opulence surrounding it. Eren sits within the moving carriage, his gaze distant as he contemplates a memory, thinking to himself that it wasn't like the ruby pendant they had. He recalls nothing else that seemed to belong to it, nor was it something passed down through generations. His brow furrows as he considers the implications, a quiet realization dawning on him. He knows how much she loved it. His emerald eyes reflect a deeper question, wondering if she was just feeling pressure. Meanwhile, his sister, also within the carriage, offers a seemingly unrelated observation, that eyelashes don't seem to take that long. She probably cannot help but feel like it is her duty. He muses, thinking that he should be feeling that way instead of her. A soft sigh escapes his sister, who seems to be saying, I don't have time to be in. Eren's gaze sharpens, red lines beginning to glow around his eye as he resolves, I have to be as ready as I can before I leave. Suddenly, a glowing red system window materializes before him, displaying the words, Enter System 1. A surge of red energy crackles around his leg and hand, a powerful sound effect accompanying the activation. The red lines on his face intensify, another distinct chime signaling a system update. 2 more red system windows appear, informing him that he has received 30 coins and then 22 coins from Seokyeon. A small, almost dismissive sound escapes him as he looks down, muttering, Look at him. He stares intently at the glowing red lines of the system interface, its cryptic text reflecting in his eyes. A chat window pops up, displaying a conversation between him and Seokyeon, where he questions if the other is joking, only to receive a confused huh? What? In response. With a serious expression, he reminds Seokyeon that he had no time to waste and didn't expect things to move so quickly, confirming he's working on it. A look of surprise crosses his face as he remarks, Looks like you're having a blast. Meanwhile, elsewhere, a man in glasses and a hat stares wide-eyed at his own screen, uttering a stunned, how did you? His system window reveals the source of his shock, a message declaring, it's from the dark web exchange, followed by a scammer using automatic AI coins. His eyes dart to another notification, showing new distribution rates, 49%-1%, prompting a desperate, wait. He observes a sudden, alarming drop in a percentage, his eyes glowing with a fierce red light. As he questions the unexpected change, while Seokyeon, seemingly unaware of the full implications, assures his counterpart of a good deal, believing his advice to be sound. Eren, however, dismisses the claim, asserting he had already been informed, while an unseen observer notes his diligent work. A surge of crimson energy erupts, scattering like dust, prompting him to raise a hand, his voice firm and unwavering, warning against any attempts to deceive him. The system then confirms a drastic alteration. Arun, the client, has unilaterally shifted the distribution rates, increasing his share from 80 to 83% and decreasing Seokyeon's from 20 to 17. The realization hits Seokyeon with a jolt, his hand flying to his head in disbelief. He quickly offers his apologies, promising to investigate the matter immediately and make contact. The system then displays a final message, confirming that a contract between 2 organizations has now secured the distribution center. A new dimensional contract is established, a secret maintenance contract that redefines the relationship. Seokyeon, once a mere supplier, is now officially designated as a slave. In exchange for protection and the safeguarding of his secrets, Seokyeon must now follow every command and surrender 90% of his profits, as Eren's eyes glow with a sinister red light, a glowing cube held firmly in his grasp. This slave contract is set to remain active for a full century, meaning Seokyeon has agreed to serve as his slave for the next 100 years, kneeling submissively before him. He muses that Seokyeon has already tasted the intoxicating joy and enjoyment, and even if everything is stripped away, he will never cease to yearn for it, unable to be satisfied with mere scraps. A smirk plays on Eren's lips, his eyes still glowing with an unsettling crimson. He brings a small object to his mouth, thinking to himself that he will keep his new slave in his mouth forever. Seokyeon, now completely subservient, presents a book or tablet, his voice hesitant. Eren glances at the item, expressing surprise at how quickly the task was completed, noting it took no time at all. Seokyeon lowers his gaze, offering a meek apology. As Eren's eyes glowed with a crimson light, he sought information on Evangeline's breath, a legendary technique from a master swordsman who once dominated the world, but the system's response left him questioning, wondering what exactly had been found, and why the explanation abruptly ended. His Eye of Providence skill, now fully active, focused intently on the data. Staring at the glowing interface, which simply stated no further information could be found, he muttered, wondering if this truly was the extent of the knowledge available. He had been told it was, but a deeper intuition told him otherwise, convinced there was more to uncover than what was presented. Meanwhile, Siakin, clutching his head in distress, recalled Aaron's words, questioning his assessment of the person they needed as trash. Aaron, his eyes still glowing, responded with incredulity, asking who would ever believe a third-tier individual. Siakin, looking towards him, countered that if they couldn't even reach the second tier, they were likely third tier by default. Siakin flinches, a sharp wince crossing his face, his voice rising in a desperate cry, demanding to know whose fault it truly is. He can hardly believe Aaron remains so unchanged, despite being a skilled martial artist. Aaron, however, calmly asserts that stability is the most crucial factor. Siakin explains that a smooth and leisurely approach significantly reduces the risk of internal injuries. Later, Aaron sits before a glowing screen, lamenting the difficulty of finding superior information, even after reaching out to his contacts. His hand glows with a faint red energy as he murmurs a questioning "really?" Siakin confirms his point, questioning the purpose of a system that would lead to such vulnerabilities, emphasizing the financial and physical toll of constant injuries. Still emanating a soft red glow, Aaron shifts his focus, asking about the fate of the others. Still focused on his work, Aaron calmly states that he is addressing the issues, while Siakin, looking visibly stressed, reports a problem with the instructions given, noting that the recipients have yet to respond. With a slight smile, Aaron instructs him to forward the replies once they come in. Siakin acknowledges the command, but his concern is palpable as he hesitates, bringing up the critical issue of distribution dates. His expression remains troubled, the weight of the situation clearly pressing down on him. Later, Aaron holds a book, a satisfied smile gracing his features, finding its contents quite useful. He gazes at a screen, deep in thought. The book itself is a martial arts text, notably well translated. Aaron smiles, deciding, "Good, then I'll." A woman, his sister, appears, her eyes wide with curiosity, asking if the book is for her. The martial arts book, its cover adorned with a glowing blue gem, rests in Aaron's hands. He offers it to his sister, explaining, "I thought it would be useful for you." She looks at him, a hint of surprise in her voice as she asks, "You got that because of me? You didn't have to do that." Aaron maintains his gaze, clarifying his intentions. "It may feel weird right now, but there's a reason why I'm giving you this book." His sister takes the book, her brow furrowed in thought as she asks, "A reason?" He simply replies, "You'll find out when you finish it. I'd appreciate it if you read the whole thing." A soft smile touches her lips as she agrees. "Okay, I promise." Watching her, Aaron thinks to himself, "She has talent. At least more than my old man." He imagines his sister, clad in shining armor, a powerful aura surrounding her. If my sister mastered the iron breath, perhaps the situation wouldn't have gotten so bad. His thoughts then shift to a faded image of an armored figure, his father. Of course, I can't say for sure, but it's difficult to imagine. He knows one thing for certain, that his sister never truly had the chance to develop her inherent talent. He could have given her 100 system points or high-grade mana crystals if he wanted to, but that wasn't the path he chose. Now was not the time for such shortcuts. With his preparations complete, everything was finally ready. A sudden thought crosses his mind, as he almost forgot something crucial. He turns to face a small gathering of people, and a red-haired woman among them looks on with a silent, stunned expression. Aaron Steelguard, with a confident smirk, holds up 2 fingers, asserting his omnipresence. His unspoken message clear: no one should dare to interfere with his plans. A slight frown crosses his face, as a red-haired woman in the crowd visibly flinches at his intensity, her expression a mix of shock and annoyance. In his past life, the journey to the academy had felt like an inescapable march to a slaughterhouse. But now, the rhythmic clatter of hooves on the road accompanied a vastly different experience. A lot of things had changed. He reflected on the improved relations with people who once hated him and the positive views of those around him. More than anything else, Aaron Steelguard knew he was incomparable with his past self. Standing back-to-back with Siakin, his gaze was fixed on what lay ahead. The future beckoned, a faint red glow emanating from his eye as he considered it. A sharp, metallic chime cuts through the silence, signaling an incoming message, and the device confirms the long-awaited reply has arrived from the seller he was looking for. Turning to his companion, Aaron Steelguard notes the perfect timing, as the items they sought are now available, though further discussion will be necessary. He then focuses on a second notification, acknowledging its arrival with a quiet affirmation. A subtle red glow emanates from his eye as he finally feels a sense of relief, the pieces beginning to fall into place. Gazing at a mysterious, glowing egg, the Bulgasari's egg, a famous shapeshifter in System X, he realizes this hatchable item, though capable of growing into a natural disaster, can be a loyal and trustworthy companion if properly trained, and with it, he can finally begin to resolve the lingering issues. His hand reaches out, drawn to the soft, ethereal light emanating from the egg. Aaron Steelguard holds the dark, egg-like object, a Bulgasari's egg, contemplating the immense power it contains, a living natural disaster waiting to hatch. As he examines it, a small system window flickers into view, confirming its identity. Siakin, standing nearby, offers a final word of instruction, telling him he'll be on standby if needed, to which Aaron simply acknowledges. A subtle red glow emanates from Aaron's eyes as he processes the initial data, revealing the egg contains a creature named Henriel, an animus species from System 4, Callisto, with a trading level of 4 and a soul status of a good warrior, possessing 418 poised coins. He murmurs thoughtfully. He sits, still observing the egg, a small system window confirming its origin from System 4, his thoughts racing. The red glow in his eyes intensifies as he delves deeper into Henry's profile, discovering a warrior ranking of 2,827, a participant in competitions, and a gambling addict, with prize money from tickets and gambling. He hums again, a plan forming. Suddenly, the egg itself begins to glow with a faint purple aura, catching his attention with a surprised exclamation. Aaron Steelguard's hand hovers over his system interface, a thought crossing his mind that this might prove more challenging than anticipated. As he initiates a system query, the interface displays his own identifier, a ruin, followed by a prompt asking about Henriel, before he clarifies his intention to purchase a Bulgasari egg. A gruff voice responds, confirming his origin from System 4. Aaron looks down at the bearded man, acknowledging his arrival, who in turn gazes up at him. The man, holding a steaming cup, casually requests a moment before proceeding. Meanwhile, the system displays specific information, detailing that there are no inherently evil beasts, and referencing a legendary tamer, a guide to the Emperor of Beasts, backmount, and numbered entries for creatures like the Hypnosis Cyclops, the Bulgasari, and the Ghost Raven. Aaron's gaze sharpens as he confirms his intent, stating his desire to purchase number 215. The bearded man's hand gestures slightly, a hint of annoyance in his tone. He questions if Aaron hadn't heard, reminding him that he'd already informed his servant of his refusal to sell. He reiterates his desire for the Bulgasari egg, specifically number 215, to the merchant, who simply confirms his understanding. Aaron, surprised by the merchant's calm demeanor, wonders if he's being unreasonable, as the merchant expects a hefty sum just to discuss the matter. The merchant, however, clarifies that the price isn't the issue, asking what Aaron is truly after. He then reveals the item in question is a book about the Emperor of Beasts. Aaron, seeing the displayed price, acknowledges that it's not an exorbitant amount. The merchant, however, dismisses the idea of selling, stating that the book is not for sale, despite its connection to the Emperor of Beasts. He firmly rejects Aaron's offer, making it clear that the item is not for sale. Aaron, undeterred, calculates a new offer, proposing an additional 8 coins for number 215. The merchant, however, simply states that Aaron doesn't understand the situation, implying the value is beyond monetary. Aaron, his eye glowing with a subtle red light, presses the merchant, asking if he intends to sell all 14 items at once. The merchant, with a confident smirk, confirms his intention, believing 2,000 coins to be a fair price, while Aaron internally acknowledges the truth. The item is impossible to find in the system. Still, he refuses to be pushed around, his glowing eye reflecting his resolve. Taking a different approach, Aaron proposes a deal, 100 coins for a copy of item number 215. The merchant's confident demeanor shatters, his face contorting in utter disbelief. Aaron, too, is taken aback by his own words, wondering how he could have suggested such a thing. The merchant explodes in a fit of rage, shouting that the author wouldn't even write such a scenario. Confused by the outburst, Aaron wonders if the man is on drugs, or what is truly going on with this golden noble. Then, a realization dawns on him, his eye flaring once more as a new possibility emerges. As a red glow emanates from his eye, Aaron realizes the true danger of his previous offer, muttering that the situation could have been far worse, acknowledging the unseen forces at play. He understands now that certain items are protected by an author's center, making any attempt to copy them a severe offense. A violation would lead to a permanent ban and the loss of all assets, explaining the merchant's furious reaction to his earlier suggestion. He chastises himself for overlooking the copyright mark, a voice urging him to be more careful in the future. The merchant, Siakin, points a finger, demanding to know if Aaron understands the gravity of copyright laws. Aaron, deep in thought, concedes that copying is not an option, his expression reflecting a new strategy forming. With renewed determination, he makes a counteroffer, proposing to buy the original item number 215 for a mere 200 coins. His eye glowing with resolve, Aaron declares this his final offer, urging the merchant to consider it carefully. Siakin's face registers a flicker of surprise, clearly taken aback by Aaron's unexpected turn in the negotiation. He holds the glowing red item, his gaze firm as he declares the negotiation over, stating that the merchant doesn't have to accept his terms if he doesn't want to. A faint red glow emanates from his eye as he thinks, let's see who's more desperate. Just then, a system notification appears, asking if he wants to join a chat with Henriel. As expected, the merchant, Siakin, attempts to counteroffer, finding 200 coins a bit too little and suggesting 300 instead. Aaron's eye glows again as he presses his advantage, reminding the merchant of the implications of copyright and implying Siakin understands the gravity of the situation. Cornered, Siakin can only ask if Aaron truly won't sell the item. The merchant's face twists in frustration, his options clearly dwindling. Aaron, holding the item, delivers his final terms, declaring he will sell it, but only on his conditions, and that a trade is imminent, just as he expected. He observes the defeated merchant, thinking to himself that Siakin only has about 400 coins and is desperate enough to accept the trade. It seems the merchant was desperate, trying to recoup losses from gambling, which made him an easy target. As Aaron processed the information, a new system alert appeared, detailing the item's copyright protection. Item number 215 could not be used or sold until its copyright expired. A flicker of understanding crossed his face, realizing now why several people had known about this peculiar restriction. More data flooded his vision, revealing the item's potential danger level. A regional class beast in the wild, capable of reaching national class if well trained, with theoretical rampages reaching continental class, and even planet class, depending on its training. He murmured to himself, questioning the very concept of such classifications. Though he hadn't expected much from the item initially, the implications of its true power were beginning to sink in. The term echoed in his mind, a chilling reminder of the immense power he now held. His eyes widened in genuine alarm, as the full weight of the item's potential danger settled upon him. Another system message appeared, posing a new question. Was Yangchang the trainer for Hawkeye?